Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Employment Virtual Conference. Also, the acronyms are EVC, Talent Actualized, and our theme this year is creating synergy for tomorrow's workforce, specifically for employer engagement. And thank you to Launch at USF for securing hands-on USF for our ASL interpreting services for the entire conference today. If you need to view ASL interpretation, press the interpretation button and select the American Sign Language option, and a window with the interpreter should appear. Should you need closed captioning, please check your settings and click closed captioning, and it should be going across the bottom of the screen. So the content and views expressed in this presentation do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the Florida Center for Inclusive Communities at the University of South Florida, and no official endorsement is intended or should be inferred. So again, welcome to Creating Synergy for Tomorrow's Workforce, Employer Engagement. Our goal today is to increase employer interest in hiring persons with disabilities. We also aim to provide self-advocates, families, professionals, and caregivers with tools and resources to continue or begin helping self-advocates obtain real jobs for real wages. No matter what may occur around us, we can still promote and advocate for competitive employment for all in whatever environment is the least restrictive and the most promising for career ladder moves. And I'd like to start off today with a survey. Let me put this into the chat. You go to this link, it will show on the screen. And the question is, how do you feel today? You have to go into the chat, click the link. It'll take you to polls everywhere. Another window will open up, and then you can answer the question. How do you feel today?
Denise,
Yes.
I'm trying to click that link for some reason, and at least on my computer, it says it refused to connect.
Okay, we'll skip those for right now. We'll try them again later. That means I have to go online and do something else. And then we'll find out where you are. Hopefully we'll have time to do it again later. Firefox says it cannot open. Sorry, you all, for that. It worked when I practiced. So our agenda today is we're doing opening remarks right now. We're going to go over an overview. We're going to go over the agenda. We're going to have our keynote speaker start in a few minutes, or our keynote panel about creating synergy for tomorrow's workforce panel, and it'll be interpreted by USF hands-on. We'll also have a session on changing expectations for persons with disabilities in the workforce. We'll have a session on delivering innovative vocational education through virtual reality technology, also known as DIVE, DRT. We will have a couple breaks. We will also have a lunch break. Then we will do Disability Employment Awareness Month as a resource for employers and professionals. And then we will also talk about disability underrepresentation in apprenticeships. And can we fix this, and talk about implementing the apprenticeship toolkit. And then about 3 o'clock, maybe 3:15, we will do closing remarks, have general Q&A, we'll do our survey and other details, and we should be out of here by 3:15, 3:30 at the latest. So I thank you all for that. And I will introduce Ms. Christine Hugh, who is the Director for Launch, to introduce our panel discussion.
Thank you, Denise. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So we are really proud and excited to present you with our insightful keynote panel discussion on the benefits of hiring people with disabilities. So this keynote session will explore the untapped resources individuals with disabilities bring to the workforce. Our expert panelists will delve into the ramifications and concerns employers may have addressing current workplace regulations related to disabilities. Our awesome panel members are Dr. Carrie Morse, Dr. Robin Lewis, Caitlin Burnham, and it will be moderated by Maurice Abenchuchin. Maurice will speak and use American Sign Language. A little bit about our panelist. Dr. Carrie Morse has over 20 years of experience developing employment, education, and independent living programs for teens and adults with special needs. She worked for 9 years as an ESE high school teacher in Broward County. She also worked in the nonprofit sector since 2007, designing and overseeing programs while securing and managing a diverse funding portfolio. As the owner of Morse Consulting Group, LLC, Carrie has a mission to support nonprofits, communities, and government agencies in development of employment, post-secondary, and independent living / housing solutions for individuals with special needs and their families. She also currently sits as the president of Florida APSI and has served on the board since 2016. Our next panelist is Dr. Robin Lewis. Dr. Lewis has over 25 years of experience advocating, educating, and supporting individuals with disabilities. As Assistant Director for the Illinois Institute of Rehabilitation and Education Research, she serves as a liaison to the state of Illinois and national government organizations. She assists with administration of the Institute's grant projects and works with the director of the overall management of the Institute, ensuring alignment of the Institute's project with the mission. Our next presenter is Caitlin Burnham. Caitlin earned her bachelor's degree in communication science and disorders from the University of South Florida, specializing in American Sign Language, ASL interpreting. Her journey with ASL began in 2013, sparked by a deep passion for language, inclusion, and accessibility. For 6 years, she worked closely with deaf youth, providing support, advocacy, and mentorship that helped empower young individuals within the community. In April 2024, Caitlin joined McDonald Training Center, where she continues to promote communication access and inclusion for the deaf community. Her work is grounded in the belief that everyone deserves to be understood and supported in their preferred language. Caitlin remains a strong advocate for the deaf community, dedicated to breaking down communication barriers and fostering environments that are welcoming, respectful, and inclusive. Through education, empathy, and action, she continues to build bridges between deaf and hearing worlds. Finally, our moderator, Mr. Abanchuchen, is a passionate accessibility consultant, educator, and advocate with deep roots in the deaf community. As a third-generation deaf individual and heritage signer, he values the profound role American Sign Language, ASL, plays in connecting people to the world. Professionally, Maurice serves as an innovation program support and accessibility consultant at McDonald Training Center, where he leads ASL training, produces accessible media, and advises on best practices for deaf individuals. He also works with families of deaf children through the Florida School for the Deaf Parents Empowerment Program, and he supports ASL learners nationally as an ASL specialist with Gallaudet University. So panelists, please take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome. I'm excited to be here and get started. Yes, I am Maurice. I am very honored for being here. Thank you so much for having me. And like you had mentioned, I am part of the deaf community. So I'd like to go ahead and get started. I'll have 2 interpreters working with me, voicing for me today. We'll sometimes have pauses just to make sure that everything is working well and everyone is on the same page. So just please bear with me and have some patience, okay? Well, today we have a great panel opportunity. I'm looking forward to asking these questions and seeing some answers. Now, I'm just making sure I'm looking at the list of questions to make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started with Carrie. What do you think is a benefit for a position if someone that had a disability were to join that position?
Good morning, everyone. Well, there's so many benefits. Many of us speak to employers on a daily basis and community members, and we're all advocates on hiring individuals with disabilities. I think that for employers to understand the benefits, sometimes you go through the benefits that make sense for the company's bottom line if they've never hired before. So we talk about increased productivity and efficiency of individuals, oftentimes with disabilities, higher retention rates, folks with disabilities wanting to come to work and really do a good job. Of course, highlighting tax credits that a company is eligible for in some cases is important for the bottom line. But, as employers do start hiring and become comfortable with hiring people with disabilities, they share added benefits. So, it enhances the company image. Many people want to frequent businesses that are inclusive and hire people with disabilities. Employers find that their staff, because of hiring people with disabilities, then have diverse perspectives and skills. The workplace culture improves, which is a really neat thing to watch, boosting morale and productivity for other employees. And I think I've heard a lot of employers, this is the coolest part in my opinion, talk about universal design. So once they hire individuals with disabilities that may need small accommodations, they frequently adopt universal design principles in their hiring and onboarding processes, seeing that those benefits could be good for everyone. So they might include reviewing employee handbooks differently, making it more clear for onboarding. Maybe they offer hands-on interview experiences rather than just your verbal typical interview, because they see that that works better for all employees. They establish clear and structured onboarding and employee review systems, needing to clean those systems up. And maybe even providing mentorship opportunities that they haven't before, and really capitalizing on those natural support networks within their organization. So I think that's really some of the coolest benefits of hiring individuals with disabilities is making that workplace culture and those organizational processes even better for all employees.
So this is Robin. I'm happy to add a few comments to Carrie. I think another benefit of employers hiring people with disabilities is that really there's a lot of economic and social advantages. So a 2018 report showed by Accenture, which is a business enterprise. I don't remember. They're in the private sector, so they're not associated with really disability, but they're business oriented. So, but they showed that organizations that hire persons with disabilities, they outperform their peers. They can show 28% higher revenue, double the net income, and 30% higher economic profit margin. So there's really an economic benefit to hiring people with disabilities. And in addition to that, organizations see increased efficiency, effectiveness, and return on investment. So people with disabilities typically have a average or above average performance, attendance, safety, and they're highly motivated, loyal, reliable. They show up to work every single day. They have lower turnover rates than the average person. And not to mention, there is definitely an added benefit sometimes. My specialty and background is in persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I think that there's often a contagious personality that comes to the workforce and just changes the overall morale of their coworkers and the work environment. So that infectious enthusiasm really wears off on other people, which is great. And then just if you're hiring people, if you're a business that hires a person with a disability, that kind of shows and speaks to your community and speaks to the culture of your organization and the inclusiveness of your business, and improves that reputation and image with your consumers and your investors.
Great, thank you so much. All right, our next question would be, can you share any common misconceptions or anything regarding hiring individuals with disabilities and how you would approach that?
This is
Robin, if you
Robin.
could answer.
Yeah, I sure can. So I didn't know if there was anybody who needed to answer first or not. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about hiring people with disabilities. I think that employers often feel like they need to hire persons with disabilities out of goodwill instead of hiring people to meet their specific workforce needs. I think they also feel like it's going to be costly to accommodate somebody on the job, which in fact, the Job Accommodation Network, they report that accommodations, almost all of them, are at no cost or very little cost, under $300. And I think employers also get nervous thinking that they need to know everything about disability and accommodation. But you don't. You don't have to be an expert. There are plenty of experts in your community, plenty of resources in your community that can help you with job accommodations and understanding ADA and the Rehab Act and all of those sorts of things to make sure that you're, in alignment with laws and regulations. And I think the other thing that people feel is that you might have to do something drastically different to have a person, to support a person with a disability in your workforce, and really that's not the case. Integrating people with disabilities can be no different than your regular other employees. So you just need to have a clear set of expectations, concrete expectations and instructions, offer feedback and rewards to all of your employees. That's just something you should do for all employees and not just something specific for a person with a disability. So that's all I have.
I can add to that one a little bit. So my background is in sign language interpreting. So a lot of that I'm going to be referencing will focus on the deaf community. And a few misconceptions that I've seen, unfortunately, is when jobs say that these jobs you must be able to hear and speak. I like to really ask, have we looked over the job description again? Are these actual requirements, or is this the easy way out? So working with the deaf community, it's really taking a step back and thinking outside the box. And it's how can this job become more visual? It goes to like focusing on, it's a new language. It's different than English. And I think some other misconceptions is that it would just take too much time to train these individuals. One example recently that happened with one of our interns, she was hired on the spot, and this director, she had an open mind from the beginning. She had a relationship with someone who was deaf in her family, and if I already need to train someone, I might as well have an impact on someone's life. So I think that if we could take that perspective and just share it everywhere, I think that would really make the biggest difference.
Okay, I'm just waiting on the interpreters. There's a little hookup with the interpreter view. Okay, great. I'm going out to Ahmed. Can you see me? Yes, I can. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much, Caitlin, for your valuable input. Is there anything anyone else would like to add? Robin?
I could just add a quickly. I have also come across employers that have experiences hiring individuals with disabilities, and
Hold on,
for
I can't see the interpreter. I'm sorry. Okay, now the interpreter's back on. You can go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to add real quickly. Sometimes folks come across employers that have had negative experiences hiring an individual with a disability for whatever reason. It may have not been the best match for the position, and I think that we need to support employers in understanding that that's can happen with a person with a disability or not having a disability. Everybody is different, and really listening to the employer's experience and trying to support them through that, and making a good match the next time, or understanding what went wrong, and supporting them through that experience, I think, is important. It's okay that they have that perspective, because we all want to make sure that we do the best we can, but just trying to sit down and listen to kind of what their interpretation was, and how we can do better to support individuals in the future would be key.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. And I also wanted to apologize real quick for the interpreter issue. I hope things get a little better from here on. But again, thank you so much for your patience. I'd like to move on to the third question now. So for Robin, I'd like to ask what you think about the rules and policies as well as executive orders. Do you think those executive orders or any other regulations will support or not support people with disabilities in the workplace?
Well, that's a loaded question, I feel, and one that could have a wide variety of answers. But fundamentally, I feel like if an employer is dedicated fundamentally to a diverse and dynamic and inclusive workforce, that it doesn't matter what the executive orders say, they're going to continue with those socially just practices. And employers that have those DEI policies in place simply because it's a requirement or not a requirement, then that probably wasn't going to be a successful environment for a person with disability to work in to begin with. So I think the biggest barrier really is employers not understanding the value that persons with disabilities bring to the workforce, and understanding that people with disabilities can be high capacity workers. And just knowing that the executive orders are not going to override the ADA or the Rehab Act. However, laws are only as good as and effective as their enforcement. So that's where the capacity, I feel like, of organizations and the what's going to impact us most is folks that available to provide that oversight of these laws and regulations. So there's just not going to be the people to provide that oversight. So that's really where we're going to be impacted. And then finally, I think really the most impacted person with disabilities are those that belong to multiple marginalized groups or more than one marginalized group. So maybe they are a person with a disability that is also a minority based on gender, race, orientation, religion, economic status. So when you get those multiple factors into play with a person, that's where you're going to see a greater impact for those individuals. That's all.
Wow. Is there anyone else who'd like to add? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We'll move on to the next question. And this question will be for Caitlin. So since you've been working with the innovation team over at MTC, what are some steps that MTC has taken to show that inclusion for people with disabilities? For example, for the deaf and hard of hearing, how has that been done over at MTC?
Absolutely. So before we started this program, we had Maurice and some other deaf specialists walk around. And at MTC, we have a large warehouse. So he was able to shed some light on, how we can become more visual. What maps could we have up? How could we have the areas color coded? Adding flashing lights to our safety equipment. Simple things like that probably costs less than a few $100s to fix. Adding flashing alarms and flashing doorbells, making sure there's closed captions on our trainings. All of those things are ways that we were able to kind of have that forward thinking of how can we become more visual in a deaf-friendly environment. And And some other ways that other companies can become more inclusive. We've realized recently with working with the interns and applying for jobs externally is the application process. Everything's becoming more AI. Everything is tagging certain words. And because sign language is so different than written English, it's impossible to get those words just right. And I've also noticed that they'll ask, is there a disability? Please check this box. What do you need? And if you say, my first language is American Sign Language, you show up to the interview, there's no interpreter. Unfortunately, we had an intern share his experience before joining our program with how he said he needed an interpreter, showed up for a job interview. There was no interpreter. His mom stepped in. His mom doesn't know sign language because statistically, 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents, and very few of those parents learn to sign. So it's just that cycle. So that's where service providers, deaf organizations, that can step in and be that support. And now, since then, we said, we will send an interpreter. We need to have that equal access. So those are ways that MTC has gotten behind the deaf community and tried to have more of an inclusive work environment.
Are we invited to add more?
Carrie, is there anything else you'd like to add? Yes.
I would, thank you. So, in terms of accessibility, like Caitlin mentioned, but I focus on students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So often being able to navigate an online application is next to impossible. They may not have the supports that they need to complete an online application. So I think that really understanding that you're excluding a whole set of folks by only offering online applications whenever you're advertising and making that your only means to apply for a job, you're really it's kind of detrimental to you as the business owner because you're missing out on a whole pool of really qualified candidates, which is unfortunate. And I think that for a few other things that I would add to making your environment accessible is just really understanding that you need to have equitable practices, and that's not equal. Equitable and equal are not the same. Equitable means fair and just. Equal would just be like making it the same for everybody, and that's just really not how you make an inclusive and accessible work environment. And then I think Carrie mentioned earlier about the right job fit. Really, for any employee, if you want the best performance from them, you have to have that right job fit. If it's not a good fit, they're not going to perform well. And I think that you need to make your environment inclusive and accessible to all of your employees, not just people with disabilities. This shouldn't be seen as something separate and apart from, or some special activity or something special you need to do for an employee with disabilities, but just doing it because it's the right thing to do in your workforce. And then I would just kind of encourage disclosure of disability. People with disabilities don't need to give all the details about their disability, but it is helpful if they're able to share with their employer and feel comfortable sharing with their employer how their disability impacts their ability to work, so that you can make necessary accommodations and you can train their coworkers and their managers on the best way to work with the person so that they can be the most successful. I think that's all I have to add.
I'll just add, I think that
Robin.
to add to Robin's comment about streamlining procedures, I think that many employers could reevaluate their performance review process, just making sure that from the start, their employee handbook, states what the expectations are. The position description is very clear for the expectations of that position. The manager is, in fact, making sure that that person understands what the expectations are throughout, answering any questions. And then when it comes time to performance reviews, that information has been discussed throughout, and it's not just done once a year. Many individuals with disabilities, especially those that may have some cognitive disabilities, need to understand what the expectations are, how they're performing throughout the year, getting feedback on that performance throughout the year and not just during a performance review. And that would benefit all employees. So making sure that those guidelines are clear and that that process is comfortable for everyone is really important, because then, if someone is underperforming, they have that feedback loop to make sure that they have the support they need to improve. And maybe it's just a matter of, changing a position. Maybe it's a matter of getting additional training, reaching out to an agency that's supporting that individual so that they can help with additional training. But if that communication is not clear, then it really sets everybody up for failure. So, making sure that that process is clear for everyone could help the organization in general.
Thank you so much for your answer, Carrie. Okay, now we are at the last question, and this will be for Carrie. When employers are hiring people with disabilities, what are some legal concerns that could potentially arise? That can be sticky to navigate. So what are some concerns that you can think of?
Yeah, well, we did address this a little bit earlier, but insurance and liability often comes up quite frequently. Our state and actually the voc rehab system has some things in place to assure that employers can bring someone on for on-the-job training, and they have, workplace insurance covered, liability insurance covered as part of that program. So that's a nice way of introducing employers to bringing someone on. We want to make sure that employers understand reasonable accommodations, the ADA. There's lots of tools out there to help them understand those legal compliance guidelines. We talked about earlier, we talked about JAN, the Job Accommodation Network. It's a free confidential service. That one's provided by the Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy, ODEP. But there's also EARN, which is the Employment Assistance and Resource Network on Disability Inclusion. If employers are connected to SHRM, all of these acronyms, the Society for Human Resources Management, there's a wealth of resources that SHRM can offer, also SHRM. In legal compliance, HR best practices, accommodations. They can connect with other employers and learn about those reasonable accommodations and how to offer those. So, their legal concerns are valid, but understanding how to navigate those, there's lots of resources available to employers when they are looking at hiring individuals with disabilities. And I'll turn it over to my other panelists. I'm sure they have other ideas and resources available.
I'll add to Carrie. So yeah, knowing your local experts on ADA and the Rehab Act is going to be very important. So the only things that I would add to the list that Carrie provided would be your Centers for Independent Living would also be a really great resource. And also your community rehabilitation providers. So you have community providers that are offering these employment services. They really are the experts and can help you with that. And really, I feel like this comes up a lot, but it really irritates me a little, because hiring a person with a disability, the legal concerns there are no different than a legal concern from hiring any person. So just making sure that you have very clear written hiring policies and procedures, and you're consistent with application amongst all of your applicants, that you have accessible hiring practices so that anybody can apply for the job, and really kind of I'll use a quote, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like, if you really get to know your employees and you listen to their needs and you observe and see, you know, if there's something that you can do to make the work environment better for your person, then you reduce your risk of having any problems in terms of in the legal sense anyway. So that's all I have to add.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to just open it up to see if anyone else has any questions. You can type it in the chat, and then the interpreter, Ahmed, can read those out loud.
I dropped in a bunch of
The panelists
resources
can
into the
answer.
chat. So if you'd like to look them up, I included the Job Accommodation Network, the Employment Assistance and Resource Network on Disability, so EARN, SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and then I also included the Southeast ADA Center. So it's one of 10 regional centers that make up the ADA National Network, and they're a great resource also if you have any questions specifically about the ADA. And lastly, the US Business Leadership Network, now it's called Disability In. It focuses on disability inclusion worldwide and connects businesses together to forward and advance hiring individuals with disabilities.
Thank you, Carrie. Does anyone else have any other questions? Again, it's an open floor if you'd like to ask anything. And of course, feel free to type it in the chat so that we can see those questions. Thank you so much to our panelists. I thought you did a wonderful job. And of course, thank you for coming.
My
So does
pleasure.
anyone else-
I was typing too slow, but I have a question. What recommendations would any of you panelists make to family members, caregivers, support coordinators, or other professionals to support employment of those with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities?
Well, this is my area of expertise. So I would just say, first, it's important for families to have the expectations for their person to work and be successful on the job and really understand their person's strengths and weaknesses, and trying to find a job that they're going to love, be committed to, because really the best indicator of success is going to be having that good job match for your person. So if your person says that their dream job is to create art and paint or whatever it is, if you get them a job as a dishwasher, they may not do very well because that's not what they want to do. So I think the most important thing to do is just listen to your person. And if they don't talk and they don't communicate very well, then listen to them by observing their actions and what makes them happy. That can really give you some insight as to what type of job would be available to them, and really being able to explore and giving them opportunities to try out, do job trials, do just work-based learning opportunities, anything that they can do to give it a go and see if it's going to be a good fit for them or not. Just that discovery piece is very, very critical. And families and caregivers, they are the ones that know the person the best. So they will have the most insight when it comes to that discovery process.
Yeah, and I just want to add, sometimes families aren't sure about how to connect with those program experiences. So if starting early is key, at age 14, you can really tap into those pre-employment activities that Robin was discussing. So WBLE, work-based learning experiences. There's throughout the state of Florida this summer, there's career camps. Agencies are offering those opportunities to youth ages 14 and over. So reaching out to your local vocational rehabilitation office and asking about pre-employment opportunities, reaching out to your school. The transition team at your school should know about how to connect you and your youth with those opportunities as well. Starting early at 14 gives you many years of having those trial work experiences and finding, different opportunities that work and don't work. In addition to finding, work that the individual loves, it's really important to look at environments and cultures and, do they love wearing a uniform? Do they love going to work in the morning versus the afternoon? It's all of those experiences that we've been afforded throughout the years that they should have also. So really getting started early, exploring, going to the VR office, going to the school, and understanding what programs are available in your area. If you have any questions about how to navigate that as a family member, I'm happy to put my information in the chat and I can help you reach out to your local resources.
One other thing to add, thank you, Carrie-Elle, that was very important information. I would also encourage families and caregivers not to underestimate the power of your personal network. Your personal network is probably where you're going to find a place of employment for your person. You need, for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in particular, you have to have somebody on the employer side that is a champion, somebody who understands and wants to see your person be successful. And a lot of times it's those people who have those personal connections with you already and already know your kiddo. I think that the most successful placements I've ever had are with employers who have a family member or a close person to them with a significant disability, or it has been an employer that has a personal relationship with that family.
And Vivine says, thanks for that explanation, Robin, that one and the one before in regards to those individuals who are nonverbal. She says, you hit it on the head because she was thinking that question. And a couple more resources have been put into the chat. Transition Youth Services offered by Florida Vocational Rehabilitation and McDonald Training Center, MTC. They have youth vocational resource camps for age 14 to 21. Launch also has summer camps. Depending on where you are in the state, there's a program that's having some type of summer camp. They're on social media, they're through vocational rehabilitation. And you can also go to Project 10, which is a discretionary project for the state of Florida, and they deal with strictly transition from youth to adulthood. So you can find a lot of employment resources for your specific area and who those transition specialists are for your local school. And if they are adults, there are also most of the places that offer youth camps will also offer 1 or 2 options for adult camps in the summer as well. So utilize those opportunities because you have to be exposed to something for it to become common sense. If you've never been exposed to it, it will never be common sense because you've never heard of it, you've never seen it, and it makes no sense to you. And so we have to afford the same opportunities that we were afforded growing up so that we could have real work for real wages and be satisfied and happy in the careers that we chose. And so we want to make sure that we offer that for everyone else. Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you to our interpreters for the panel discussion. If no one has any other questions for our panelists, or Maurice, if you don't have a question that you wanted to ask but maybe not had a chance to ask, you're welcome to do that as well. We're going to go back to our panel, our poll questions. And so in the chat, everyone, open up your chat. After our panel discussion, we were going to ask this earlier. How are you feeling today? when you think about the state of things and employment for individuals with disabilities, after our panel discussion, how are you feeling about that potential now? You can use an emoji or you can use a word and just put it in the chat. Let's see, good, good, optimistic, happy face, content, thumbs up. Thank you all, fantastic. Somebody's thinking now about some other stuff. Okay. Yeah. Someone says, I feel good as long as the incentives remain in place. Those incentives have remained in place, the work incentives for work and the other things that are there. But we have to remember that even if circumstances change, we, us, each one of us can still support individuals to be successful in the community, the same way that we were supported. We just may have to work at it a little bit harder. And some people say that they're unsure. So my follow-up question to that, as to how you're feeling today, is let us know where you're viewing us from, anywhere in the United States. So put either the city, or you could put your zip code, or you could put your area code, but where are you viewing us from today? Your Port St. Lucie, Tampa, Royal Palm Beach, Tampa, Illinois, just outside St. Louis, Pensacola, Winston, Salem, North Carolina, okay. Tallahassee, St. Petersburg, Sarasota. Anywhere else? Sherry, you got to pronounce that one. Loxahatchee, Boise. All right. Boynton Beach. Okay, so we representing the state, the nation, north, south, east, and west. That's pretty good. Thank you all for that. We have a few more poll questions, and Victor's going to show them. I'll read them, and then you guys can respond to them. You should be able to respond to these on your screen because they're built into Zoom. Question number 1, how did you hear about the conference today? FCIC invite, social media, a friend or colleague, FCIC website, or other? Please choose your answer. Looks like most of you heard about it from FCIC directly. We're getting the word out there. Thank you. Poll number 2. Florida's Employment First Initiative. Do you know of Florida's Employment First Initiative? Yes or no? And unfortunately, the host and the panelists, we cannot vote. We have 33% said yes, they know of Florida's Employment First Initiative, and 67% are not aware of Florida's Employment First Initiative. And so that means you need to tune in to the rest of our sessions today. And we actually have a couple sessions or things that we're going to be doing in the future and have recorded in regards to employment first. Employment first is that we believe that everyone should be afforded the right to competitive, integrated employment in the least restrictive environment that's most appropriate for them. And that's for every single person with a disability, whether they are verbal, nonverbal, high functioning, low functioning, or whatever that is. And that we, as the village or community that surrounds them, need to provide whatever supports or accommodations or system changes are necessary to make sure that they are successful. So that is an initiative that's in the Constitution for the state of Florida. So that should be something that's on our minds. It shouldn't be okay for people to never, ever, ever have the opportunity to be employed. Employment First is an initiative for the state of Florida. And I can talk on and on about that, but I won't do that right now because I am a great, huge proponent of Employment First. Part of that is why I joined Florida APSI, or the Association for Persons Supported in Employment First, and other organizations, because I truly believe that everyone should have that opportunity. And our next, Illinois is an Employment First state too. Yes, there's lots of states that are out there that are Employment First. Unfortunately, it's not all of our states, but the goal is that it should be a goal for every single state and every single person, no matter what the government is doing. And Tammy put a link into the chat, so if you want to watch a video on YouTube in regards to Employment First, it explains what that is. Next poll question. CEUs. Are you to get CEUs or to advocate for increased employment options for those with intellectual developmental disabilities? And I think are you watching this? Are you here today just to get CEUs, or are you here so that you can better advocate for other people? And while you're answering that, we do have certificates of attendance from APD that have been certified for specific job titles through APD. And you will get those once you complete your surveys. And the survey links will be provided at the end. So we have 67% are just here to advocate. Woo, woo, woo. I truly commend that. That means you're not here just to get credit. And those of you who are here for certificates of attendance, I commend you as well, because now you'll be able to advocate a little bit better for the individuals that we provide services for. And we have a couple more questions.
Denise, you wanted that keynote presentation survey? Because those were it, and then there was a keynote presentation survey, and that was it.
Let me see the keynote presentation survey. I don't remember. It's been so long since I created this stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do this. Number one, these are several questions. It's all in one, so just take your time and answer them all. The first one says, number one, do you think people with intellectual or developmental disabilities can get a technology-based job? Yes, no, I don't know. Number two, have you heard of a technology first state? Yes or no? Number three, do you know what remote supports are? Yes or no? Number four, are you a technology expert? Yes or no? And number five, are you interested in supporting Technology First in Florida? Yes or no? Let's look at the responses. 95% of you think that if people with intellectual or developmental disabilities can get technology-based jobs. Few of you are unsure. No one said no, so that's great. 86% of you have not heard of a technology first state. And 14% of you have. And there are several technology first states in the nation. They also are employment first nations. And there are differences in how they do it. Some of them, like in Ohio and in Kansas, and one other state that my brain is not working right now, they use remote supports for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who get waiver services and other state services. And the individuals who are behind the technology who provide the support, who work the chat, are other individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So they are using the technology that they need to provide services to also hire and employ individuals with disabilities. Question, do you know what remote supports are? 57% said no, 43% said yes. And remote supports can be things like simply safe, or simply home, or some type of technology monitoring, things that can support people at home with reminders to turn the stove off, close the refrigerator, alarms are going off, or even safety monitoring tracking devices are types of remote supports. And are you a technology expert? 13% of you say yes. We need that 13% so you can help the rest of us become technology experts and show how individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities can become a technology expert. Because as we go into AI, you need to be an expert to stay employed. Are you interested in supporting technology first in the state? Woohoo, 81% of you say yes. That's a great thing. So we will be looking at promoting technology first in this state so that we can increase employment opportunities as we become a technology world. And in the chat, there's a link to employment first information. And some people say that they are both employment first and technology first, and that's great. Or technology experts, and those are great opportunities. So I want to thank you all for that. Again, thanks to Maurice for being our moderator for our panel discussion. We are going to take a break. We are early. So instead of a 5-minute break, you're going to get a 9-minute break. So please return from break at 10:15, and then we will get started with our next presentation featuring Robin Lewis. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome back to session 2 of the Employment Virtual Conference 2025 Talent Actualized. This session is titled Employer Perspectives, Employment Practices that Sustain Competitive Employment for Individuals with Intellectual Disabilities. The findings of a dissertation study will be presented, revealing employment practices that sustain the competitive employment of persons with an intellectual disability. Educators, employment support professionals, and employers will learn strategies to increase knowledge, determine employer needs, create allies, and recognize value to engage employers and increase employment outcomes. Robin Lewis, PhD, has over 25 years of advocating, educating, and supporting individuals with disabilities. She currently works for the Illinois Institute for Rehabilitation and Employment Research at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign as the assistant director. As assistant director, she serves as liaison to the state of Illinois and national governmental organizations, assists with the administration of the Institute's grant projects, and works with the director on the overall management of the Institute, ensuring alignment of the Institute's projects with the mission. Dr. Lewis, we're honored to have you here today with us, and without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am happy to be here, and I appreciate the introduction. And really, I'm just a person who has a passion for working with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I'm going to apologize before we get too far into this that some of the formatting of the slides got a little lost in translation. So please close your eyes and don't look at it. If it looks a little wonky, just listen to me. So, okay, we can skip probably the first couple of slides here. You can go to the next slide, please. Go ahead, continue. All right, right here. So as I said, I have about 30 years of experience in disability employment. Trust me, I am not that old, so I started when I was about 10. But I did start as an advocate as a child for a cousin who went to school with me, and I just wanted life to be better for her. And then I went and started kind of at the low rungs of everything as a direct support professional while I was in college, and then spent the majority of my career as a high school transition teacher, developing an off-campus community integrated program for people that were 18 to 22 years old with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are my passion. They're my life's mission. They are my people, and I will probably fondly refer to them as my people throughout this presentation. So I just wanted you to know who I was talking about. All right, next slide. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief background of intellectual disabilities in work. Next. So intellectual disability really is characterized by those significant limitations, both with intellectual functioning, learning, judgment, problem solving, and adaptive behaviors. So understanding concepts, social and practical skills, and all of these originate prior to the age of 22. So, but there's many misconceptions about persons with intellectual disabilities. So, for instance, a lot of folks think that person with and a lot of representations on TV and in pictures show a person with Down syndrome, which, as a matter of fact, only about 15 to 20% of persons with intellectual disabilities actually have Down syndrome. And autism is not synonymous with intellectual disability. And persons with developmental disability may not always have an intellectual disability. So often a person with an intellectual disability looks just like you and me. And to the common observer, you know, they may have a misrepresentation of the capabilities of a person with an intellectual disability. Next slide. So really, my life's work really revolves around this. I want individuals with intellectual disabilities, my people, to be employed at a job that they love, one that makes them feel fulfilled, important, needed. Just like all of us, everyone has that work kind of defines us. So next slide. It gives us meaning and purpose. And often if we don't have work, our life feels empty. So we want to make sure that we are helping individuals with disabilities feel important and valued. Next slide. So historically, people with intellectual disabilities, paid employment has not been an expected outcome by teachers, family, the community. There's really been no expectation for them to receive a paycheck. As a teacher, I would often hear in IEP meetings, I'm okay. The parents would say, I'm okay with them not receiving a paycheck. And I would look them dead in the face and say, would you be okay going to work and not receiving a paycheck? I'm sure probably not. So we need to have that same expectation. Rarely research tells us all the barriers and all of the things that get in the way of employment for people with disabilities. They also tell us, you know, what could help folks get employed, but very rarely do we investigate an employer's perception on the factors that foster that good employee-employer relationship. And so we rarely report on really what we are doing in the workforce and what is working in the workforce. So that was the point of this study, is to get the employer's perspectives to say, hey, what is working for you? So next slide. So 22.7% of individuals with disabilities were employed in 2024 in relation to 65.5% of individuals without a disability. And so individuals with an intellectual disability, that gap is significantly wider. Reports only show 19% of adults with intellectual disabilities are employed in competitive integrated jobs within the community. Next slide. So understanding those factors that influence the employer's disposition to hire and retain individuals is really the first step to developing a plan of action to get more employers on board with hiring people with disabilities. Next slide. So legislation, we've had a lot of legislation here in Illinois. We just passed the Dignity and Pay Act into law, and that is phasing out sub-minimum wage employment in Illinois. So we have legislation in place to protect rights of people with disabilities and also to foster or encourage those equitable employment opportunities, but really we still have a substantial gap in employment. So we need to really figure out what we can do about that. Next slide. So this study, next slide, is really the purpose was to investigate, like I said, the employer's perceptions on employment practices that sustain the competitive employment of people with intellectual disabilities. We wanted to understand what practices employers use to sustain the employment. We wanted to also understand how practices used by employers have been influenced by employing people with disabilities, intellectual disabilities specifically. And then we wanted to see how the use of those practices, how the qualitative interview data supports the quantitative survey data. And use that in a way of understanding how those practices interface with one another. Next slide. So my key informants of this study were employers who had sustained long-term, which was defined as more than 90 days, because that's what Voc Rehab uses, competitive, wages higher than minimum wage, or equal to minimum wage, integrated alongside their peers without disabilities, and the employment of people with intellectual disabilities. Next slide. So I issued a survey to, I sent out 43 surveys. I got 13 back, which I was slightly upset about that. However, there is 30% return rate, and turns out that that's pretty normal for a survey. So we did all right. So we had 4 categories that we were asking employers questions about. One was their knowledge of employment and disability, the demand side factors related to their needs, the employer's needs, the value of employing individuals with intellectual disabilities, and employment allies. So it was a it had 60 questions. It took about 15 minutes on average for people to answer. And then I followed that up with a semi-structured interviews with those that were willing to do so. 3 survey respondents said that they would. Each of those interviews lasted about 25 minutes. And that's basically the structure of the study. Next slide. So what we found, or what I found, is that 46% of the survey respondents, they had more than 10 years with their organization. All of the folks answering the survey made hiring decisions. 31% of them were hiring managers. 46% represented the food service industry. And 43% had more than 10 years previous work experience with persons with intellectual disabilities, and all of the survey respondents had prior personal experiences with a person with an intellectual disability. Next slide. For the interview, I had a nice representation. Although I only had 3 that I was interviewing, they represented diverse industries, diverse business sizes, and they were a mix of for-profit and nonprofit employers. Next slide. So the study themes that kind of came about, I did follow that knowledge, demand side factors, value, and employment allies. So knowledge really gauged the employer's perceptions and behaviors related to disability, and their perceived risks and barriers, their attitudes, and their hiring and retention practices. Demand side factors, I asked them questions about understanding how to meet their own employment needs, how they fill and maintain higher turnover positions, how they match talent with jobs, and their operational needs. Value gauged their understanding of a person with a disability and their desire to work, their higher productivity, lower absentee, higher retention, motivated and loyal, and positive attitudes and energy. And then employment allies covered categories just describing those champions in the organization, those who are willing and able to act, those who fight for equality, access to resource, education, diversity and inclusion practices, and support on the job. Next slide. So I'm just going to go over the top rated behaviors that came about from the survey. So 100% of all of the employers I surveyed provide accommodations to all of their employees, not just people with disabilities. 69% share those success stories, which is very important. 62% customize or adapt their job descriptions. 62% use those employer resource networks that we discussed earlier. And 54% implement professional development specific to working with people with disabilities. Next slide. So the interview substantiated those results. I had an employer say, this is just simply how we treat people. Another employer reported using outside agencies to help with additional training and job coaching because they are not the expert. And the level of communication that they have with those employment networks. Next slide. So demand side factors, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, it is really employers understanding what their business needs are, where they have gaps in their workforce, how to leverage their employees to the best of their abilities, how to get their rate of return that they're looking for, all of those business aspects. So 92% of the employers I surveyed consider hiring people who will need additional training through on-the-job training. 92% provide all employees concrete performance expectations, give specific feedback, and opportunities to be rewarded. 77% do a job analysis to determine job fit. They also practice job customization and have 62% of them have experienced that added value to their business bottom line because of hiring a person with a disability. And then the other employers that I interviewed, they really looked at this and substantiated those results. So one employer, they looked internally. It was an agency that works with people with disabilities, and they had a specific need for a DSP, as a direct support professional. And so they started looking at their internal customers to see who they could train for that job. And they sure found one. And it ended up being one of the best DSPs that they ever had. And this person did have an intellectual disability. So it was really amazing to hear that story. And many people are looking at customizing those jobs. And the retention at one company, for all of the folks that they hired with an intellectual disability, they reported is perfect. Nobody has left, and for not any other reason than it was a good job fit for that person. So very promising results here. Next slide. All of the company employees, all of the employees that I interviewed, and surveyed, they said that they give all of their company employees tasks that are suited to their strengths. So they take a look at their employees to see what they're good at, and they give that good job match like we talked about. They celebrate the successes, review frequently, not just the first time when somebody is onboarded. They frequently review those workplace accommodations to make sure that they're still appropriate. And also 85% give their employees with disabilities an opportunity and make conscious efforts to integrate them into a team or a work unit within the group, within the organization. And that was, validated by the employers I interviewed. But they said, you might have to give a little more attention up front, but you're going to see that return on that investment later. Valuing the person and making accommodations, pairing them with the right coworkers, that was really a significant finding, was that employers are pairing these employees with disabilities with the right coworker, somebody who's a champion. Next slide. So that leads right into employment allies. Allies are the folks that are the champions within the organization. So a way that you can be an ally is to provide that adequate time for training your management and coworkers and the employees. Have your organizational statements that are committed to diversity. I know that that's kind of a hot button topic right now. And really just design and designate a person who is kind of in charge of that accommodation, organizational, inclusive work practices, and have those in-house supports for your employees with disabilities. Next slide. And further validated by the employers. One is if they had one of their customers that wanted to work, they're only interested in finding competitive employment. And others have organizational statements that say that they are for all. And then another employer had a program, a buddy program, where they paired with any new hire, they pair them up with a buddy so that they kind of have a go-to person. Those are just best practice employment practices. So really combining all of that information just really kind of are the emergent themes that came from the study was that everybody was really vested in success for all, diversity and equity, improving the organization, giving back to their community, contributing to the community in some way. Those really align nicely with the known social justice themes of access to resources, equity, participation, diversity, human rights. So what does this really mean is that for the individual, all of the employers that I worked with in this study, they really were committed to the individual and understood that the individual has the right to work, has the right to a voice, and the right to be human. So those are all very impactful when you're thinking about employment for your person. Next slide. So what are the implications? Next. And so what does this all mean? Well, it just shows that, marginalization really still is a current issue in the workforce for persons with disabilities. We have made strides, but not enough, And we have motivated and enthusiastic folks, but we're still falling short. So why is that? What is happening? Next slide. So really, I love this quote because anytime an operating system fails a specific subset of people, there's typically nothing wrong with the people, but there's something wrong with the system. So we really need to kind of examine what is wrong with our systems and why we are not able to get our folks into the workforce and support them as they need to. So this is my conceptualization of this. We have that traditional support model for employment where the parents kind of have their ideas, the agency has their ideas, the teachers, and then legislation and policy. And those are all just kind of directed towards the individual. And the employer is just kind of off to the side, not even a factor in any of these considerations. So next slide. So really, if we want to see change, we need to really connect those pieces a little bit better. We need to listen to the individual with a disability, understand what they want and what they need. And we also need to listen to the employers. We need to understand what the employers want and what they need. Then we need to use all of our resources like our voc rehab counselors, our community providers, our families. We need to then connect the two, connect the employer and the individual, so we can piece together that funding, the law, the policy, and engage folks in a way where we can meet employers' needs and also the needs of persons with disabilities and make that strong connection. Next slide. So we talked about this a little bit earlier in the panel discussion that companies who embrace best practices for employing people with disabilities, they have really outperformed their peers. 28% higher revenue, double the net income, and 30% higher economic profit margins. So it really is a value for employers to consider hiring someone with a disability. Next slide. So implications for practice. So there are many things that you can learn as an educator, an employment support professional, as an employer. So what does this mean for you? Next slide. So for educators, you need to kind of increase that knowledge of competitive employment, job matching and job carving, realizing how important that good job match is, and then connecting your students to those local employment support professionals, your VR agencies, your community providers, and really understanding the needs of your local business community. And then educating your students and families on workplace rights. And so educators, you also need to determine or establish those connections between the students, the families, the employment support networks, recognize your students' skills and their potential deficits so that you can develop those and fill their desired employment goals, and train students to fill those voids that are in your business community with your local employers, and create those allies. Collaborate with employers to foster those job trials, internships, job shadowing, develop a reciprocal network. Hey, employment support professional, Voc Rehab, I have a customer who's interested in this kind of a job. Do you have any employers you're working with? Or Chamber of Commerce, do you have any employers that have this specific need? And then collaborate strategically to address those employment needs of your local business. Next slide. So employment support professionals, I'm talking about paraprofessionals, Voc Rehab, community providers, all of those folks. We really need to educate them on their central role. Like, what is your role as an employment support professional? Your job is to connect and meet the needs of the employers and the employees, the people looking for jobs. You need to support the outcomes of all individuals with disabilities, not just the ones that are easy to work with, because VR has the charge of working with those with the most significant disabilities. And then, they also need to learn how to deliver those demand side vocational services. Can I go into an employer and teach him or do an assessment of their work environment and give them tips on how they could perhaps, pull some of those time-consuming tasks from their employees to let them become more productive, but then also create a new job for somebody with a lower level skill set, perhaps. Next slide. Next. Yep. Thanks. Determine the needs of the local community. Partner with schools and develop those relationships with employers. I can't tell you how important that aspect is. We don't have employment without employers, so we need to develop relationships with them. Then creating those allies, understanding what the employer's needs are and helping them meet those needs. And once we start satisfying those needs, they're going to start looking to us for connecting and finding employees to fill their needs. So next slide. Employers, make your stuff accessible. Make your employment-related information, your hiring practices, your, just like we talked about this morning, just making your work environment accessible. Provide some awareness programs to your staff and arm your leadership with the information and the expertise that they need to work with people with disabilities. And really negate those perceived risks of employing somebody with a disability, because really there's a lot of fear out there, and we can combat some of that fear by just educating people. Next slide. Establish those connections with the employment support professionals in your local school to have them help you identify candidates that'll fill your unmet needs. Utilize a training and development program to help support individuals at your work, and have an inclusive work environment. Connect your employees. Consciously think about how you can make your work environment conducive and inclusive. And then finally, understand those financial incentives. There are some financial incentives for hiring a person with a disability. Collaborate with your fellow businesses and learn from them, or share your experience. Word of mouth from the employers, showing other employers that it can work, that it's not scary. That's very, very important, sharing that knowledge that they've gained with other local employers. Next slide. Okay, and then recognizing the value. We just really need to recognize the value of hiring a person with a disability. It can increase inclusive opportunities. You want to share those success stories, involve all of the stakeholders, the person with a disability, their families, the employment networks, educators, local employers, and then support as an employer. Support work-based learning opportunities. Give an opportunity for a student to do a job trial. Consider internships and apprenticeships. My colleagues will be talking about apprenticeships this afternoon. And most importantly, please believe that everyone can work. We need to go in with that thought process that everybody can work when given the right job fit, the right supports on the job. Next slide. That's it for me. If you want to learn more, you can go to my website to see the full dissertation. This is just a subset of my dissertation. There's a link to the full report, and there's my email address, my phone number. Give me a call. I would love to come and talk to you. So thank you.
So the title of this presentation is Delivering Innovative Vocational Education Through Virtual Reality Technology. The much shorter version is Dive VRT. So a little background is the University of South Florida was recently awarded funding for delivering innovative vocational education through virtual reality technology, or the Dive VRT project, which began in October 2024, and it is a 5-year grant. So the presenters on this for today are Dr. Tammy Jorgensen-Smith and Larry Tartaglino. So a little bit about our presenters. Dr. Tammy Jorgensen-Smith has a PhD in counselor education with a specialization in leadership from Barry University and a master's degree in rehabilitation services from Florida State University. She also has a certified rehabilitation counselor, or CRC, since 1999. Dr. Smith joined the University of South Florida in 2007. She's currently a tenured associate professor in the Department of Child and Family Studies, Rehabilitation and Mental Health Counseling Program, and remains formally affiliated with the Florida Center for Inclusive Communities through research grants. Dr. Smith has focused her career on the research and implementation of innovative best practice models that are designed to promote full inclusion for individuals with disabilities and on activities that promote self-determination and quality in all aspects of life. Her primary focus is facilitating access to customized employment strategies for individuals with complex disabilities. Dr. Smith's expertise is in customized employment strategies, vocational rehabilitation, transition, and community integration. She developed the Access, Customized Employment Intervention, and associated fidelity instruments, which are being validated at the national level in partnership with Mark Gold and Associates. Our second presenter, Larry Tartaglino, brings over 3 decades of expertise in operational and management roles within the healthcare revenue cycle industry. Throughout his career, Larry has demonstrated a knack for innovation, strategic leadership, and fostering growth in complex industries. In 2021, he expanded his professional pursuits in an entirely new arena as one of 3 co-founders of Tampa's first all-virtual reality venue, VR Galaxy Lounge, and their newly established not-for-profit VRG Learning Institute. Pleased to hand it over to our presenters.
Thank you so much, Christine. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a project that is part of a grant through the U.S. Department of Education's Rehabilitation Services Administration. So the grant number is listed on this cover slide. Next slide, please. So Christine just did a great job in introducing myself and Larry. I also want to take a second to introduce a doctoral student and a graduate assistant on the Dive VRT project. Her name is Stephanie Simon. I don't know if she's able to use her camera or not, but she is going to join us in presenting the information about this exciting project. Next slide, please. So we have 2 primary objectives for today's presentation. The first is to provide information about this new transition and employment training program that uses advanced technology, including virtual reality and artificial intelligence, to train participants with disabilities and skilled trades. We'll also address any questions that individuals have about the Dive VRT program. And at the very end of the presentation, we will talk about the fact that we are recruiting for our August cohorts and give you opportunities to connect with us and apply to be a part of the program or refer people to the program who may be interested. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So this project, as Christine mentioned, it started on October 1st. And by the way, Christine Hugh, the person who introduced us, is the co-PI and co-project director on the DIVE grant. And she was one of the innovators of the concept of integrating advanced technology into what is the launch transition program that's been around for 15 years and has had a great deal of success. So just a little shout out to Christine there for her participation in this very important project. As I mentioned, the project leverages virtual reality and artificial intelligence technologies to train and certify youth and adults with lifelong and acquired disabilities and skilled trades. Next slide, please. So for this project, we have 2 primary aims. The first one, as I just mentioned, is to develop, implement, refine, evaluate, and disseminate an innovative state-of-the-art model curriculum designed to facilitate timely, competitive, integrated employment outcomes and high-demand careers for transition-age youth and adults with lifelong and/or acquired disabilities. So I just wanted to mention here that I just stated that we are integrating the technology into an existing curriculum that includes soft skills, job development assistance, applied learning experiences, and several things that have been very successful over the past 15 years. So this project is integrating these elements of advanced technology over a series of cohorts to have something that is able to be replicated, not just for the Tampa Bay area, but nationally. Okay, next slide, please. Our second aim is to create a sustainable, accessible, user-friendly website that contains project information, results, training, and resources. It will be there to support the project participants and all of the different stakeholders, which include professionals, employers, families. We will have different tabs with different training and information for all of those stakeholders. But one of the big things that we're doing with this website is we are developing a course, campus-based course that's user-friendly and will walk other agencies and organizations through the process of developing a dive program in their communities based on their specific resources and needs. To best do this in the part where the advanced technology comes into the website, we're incorporating artificial intelligence as our tier 1 technical assistance for people who utilize the website. So through chat bots, people will be able to go in, ask questions, and get immediate responses to any questions that they have as they go through the materials on the website. And if we have a tier 2 technical assistance, if for some reason the user feels like they need some additional information or some clarification, the artificial intelligence will produce a ticket that will come to our team, and we'll be able to contact that user and provide that technical assistance in human format. So 2 levels. The AI really is helpful in making sure people get immediate feedback and don't have to wait for a human to check for messages and get back to that person, unless it's something that the AI cannot do at that point in time. Next slide, please. So we are going to be conducting the project over 5 years with the first cohorts. This first year has been kind of a development year, but we do have the first 2 cohorts, what's considered our pilot for this project, starting August of 2025. The program is approximately a year long, and we've broken it into semesters because that works for both the high schools and universities in terms of timeline. So it works really well to do it in the same type of semesters with an adult cohort. And these are adults who are 18 plus and out of school. And within the Hillsborough County school systems, we're going to have a youth cohort. That's for individuals who are 16 to 22 and still in school. So one of the things that we did with the Dive VRT program, we already have a great launch program. We still do. But the limitations of launch include being only for transition age students. I believe it's 18 to 25. And only serving individuals on the autism spectrum. So when we looked into expanding and integrating this advanced technology, we decided let's make these opportunities open to more people, as many people with disabilities as possible. So now the age range is anyone 16 and up who are interested. And anybody who has a lifelong or acquired disability, with the exception, and this is just an exception until we can figure out how to engage these populations safely. Currently, we cannot enroll people who are blind or visually impaired, but we actually have recently learned of another place that is actually able to provide immersive training for people who are blind and visually impaired. So hopefully that will open up fairly soon. Those who have a seizure disorder. So if a person had a seizure when they were 3, but has never had a seizure since, and now they're 30, that would not preclude them from participating. But if a person has epilepsy or has a tendency to have seizures, then it's just not safe to include them in this type of technological immersion at this point in time. And we're also excluding people who are currently pregnant, but once they're no longer pregnant, they can reapply for one of our future cohorts. Next slide. So,
all right, so thank you, Tammy. I can jump in here as we get
Perfect.
into more of the project overview. So good morning, everybody. As Tammy had mentioned, participants going through the program, they will receive an education in a trade curriculum. They will be prepped for certification. They will complete soft skill training and are placed in an ALE or applied learning experience. Based off of our first cohorts, we decided that being based out of Florida, HVAC, obviously a very high demand industry, is going to be what we're going to offer for our first cohorts. So that'll be HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning certification. This will also incorporate apprenticeship, internship, job development, placement services, and on-the-job support will also be provided with the program. Next slide, please. So there are 4 core components that are adaptable for training in a diverse array of fields. That first component is, of course, the virtual reality training in a skilled trade with certification exam preparation. The course will run, as Tammy had mentioned, we will follow semesters. So we will run a 15 to 18-week program starting with this first fall semester. The workforce and soft skill training, which, as you can see, will be a 10-week. Can somebody slide back for me? There we go. Thank you. Will be a 10-week program. It'll be 3 days a week, 2 hours a day, and that'll be used to teach essential interpersonal and professional skills, such as communication, teamwork, and problem solving. The ultimate goal is to prep them as much as possible before stepping into the workforce. Work-based experience, which will vary by skilled trade requirements. That will begin second semester and run concurrently with the workforce and soft skill training. And then business and employer training, coaching, technical assistance to prepare businesses to hire and retain employees with disabilities, which has obviously been a topic of conversation today. Next slide, thank you. We'll have a refined replicable DIE VRT model curriculum. The replication guide and process for easy adoption of the DIE VRT model curriculum protocols will include a standard operating procedure, a project website, which will be linked to partner websites, including project materials, outcomes, trainings, and model replication process. That is actually, we'll touch on that in a few slides, but that is already up, running, and great job to the team on all the work that they put into getting that website together. And then, of course, there'll be a tiered web-based technical assistance platform using AI technology. Next slide, please. We have some established partnerships. We will be running the DIVE program with a PAC committee or a project advisory committee, and they'll provide guidance and feedback through the project period. Very excited that some of these partners on the PAC committee are the Department of Education, State and Local VR, Project 10, Hillsborough County Schools, Self Advocates, Families, Employers, Career Source, Florida Alliance, excuse me, for assistive services and technology, or FAST, and apprenticeship sites. So getting into the virtual reality component, which is what we're very excited for, as one of the founders of VRGLI, as it was mentioned early on, we started in the virtual reality entertainment business, but we always knew that virtual reality and education were the future, and we are very excited to be able to bring this program to life utilizing virtual reality. Who we are, we specialize in delivering cutting-edge virtual reality solutions for vocational and professional development. As you can see, there's a headset in the top right corner. One of the things that we are utilizing is to ensure that we're staying up to date with technology, which I'm sure everyone knows technology advances very quickly. Whether it's a phone or whatever other piece of equipment, people are upgrading phones almost every year. We are going to be using one of the newest headsets that's out on the market. It's a Vive product, so we are using the Vive Vision. It just got released within the last 6 months, so we're very excited that that headset and technology should ride us through the 5-year program. Our mission is to empower individuals and industries through immersive and effective learning experiences. Of course, our role in the DIVE program is to implement the VR-based training modules tailored to industry needs, provide leadership and expertise to ensure program success, and act as a bridge between educational institutions, industries, and learners, ensuring alignment with workforce demands. So why virtual reality? So I'm sure if you haven't done virtual reality, you may have a child at home who has done virtual reality. It is very immersive. It is that hands-on feel. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to take virtual reality into education. It is faster for training. It is easier and a better way to learn. 75% of individuals, when using simulations and virtual reality, said that they actually had a higher rate of retention. So virtual reality, again, is that more immersive, hands-on experience. Next slide, please. So realistic and engaging virtual reality learning modules. And again, you'll hear me say this a lot because this is a very exciting program, but we're excited to offer such a high demand industry through virtual reality. So the content, you'll have simulations for high demand industries, again, touching on HVAC this first year. But we do have other things in our back pocket. One of the next ones that we'll probably touch on, again, being in Florida, is going to be solar. But we also have the ability to offer electrical, plumbing, construction, facility maintenance. So there are quite a gambit of options that we'll have available as we move into additional year cohorts. So role-specific scenarios that mimic real-world tasks, personalized learning pathways to assess individual skills and adapt training programs accordingly. Dynamic interactive experiences tailored to learner strengths and areas of improvement. And as mentioned, real world skills in virtual spaces. So we have the ability to train learners in a safe, controlled environment that mirrors real life conditions. So with that said, if you happen to grab that hot wire and forgot to turn the power off, you're still in a safe environment. Your controller may vibrate and let you know, you probably shouldn't have done that, but you are able to move on to your next module. And of course, it does provide opportunities for hands-on practice.
Thank you, Larry. We're currently working on our project website. It's under development, but you can scan this QR code and it's going to serve as the information hub when we're going to have our project outcomes, training, and resources. And there's also going to be a replication manual in the process. As Dr. Smith mentioned, we're going to have the Tier 1 AI assistant, and then we're also going to have that Tier 2 in case the AI assistant is not able to answer your questions. You'll be connected with subject matter experts for the Tier 2 technical support to the Florida Center for Inclusive Communities. Can you go to the next slide, please? We're currently partnering with the University of Massachusetts Boston Institute for Community Inclusion to do our project evaluation. This is a comprehensive evaluation that will assess how many participants are served, the number of referrals, the number of certifications earned, attrition rate, favorite internships and apprenticeships, also our pre and post competitive integrative outcomes, pre and post wages and hours worked, demographics, and stakeholder satisfaction. For scaling and sustainability, we're creating the project website, which is going to serve as the central hub for the replication materials, curriculum, and resources. And we're currently working on creating a sustainability plan for the long-term program scaling and sustainability, which will be shared on our website. So people trying to replicate our program can go through it and use it for help. We're also cultivating our existing relationships, leveraging launches, relationships with the schools and vocational rehabilitation, and using them as a vendor for ongoing referrals and funding. So for next steps, we're currently recurring for the year 1 pilot, and this program is going to be free for the next 5 years. And we're going to hold information sessions for applicants in June. Currently, we're planning to do June 18th and June 25th. And we're working on creating a scoring system because there's a limited number of seats. So we were trying to get the applicants who are most qualified for a program. For the year 1 cohort, we're going to begin classes in August. And from August to December, we're going to have the virtual reality training and the skilled trades and then the certification exams. And from January to April, they will be working on soft skills training and apprenticeships and internships. And after that, they'll be helped with job placement and support activities. And this is our contact information. Thank you so much for coming to our presentation today.
And if we can back up to that first website page that had the QR code. Okay, so we're going to open this up to questions right now, but we also want to encourage anybody who is interested in learning more about the project or applying to be a participant in the project can scan that QR code or type in the URL, which is dive-vrt.org. Don't worry if you accidentally put in .com, it'll still take you there. Because we purchased both. When you go to the website, and as has been mentioned, it's still under construction, so it's going to continue to grow with information and resources and different trainings available, so check back frequently. But you can go to under youth and adult programs, you can click on the application link. It has a brief screening, a few questions that are for screening purposes, and then if you qualify for the program, it will take you to an application. And once your application is received and complete, you will be invited. Potential participants will be contacted to attend one of the 2 information and demonstration sessions so that you can come try the virtual reality technology. You can ask questions, you can ensure whether or not this is something that is a good fit for you, and hopefully move on and enroll in the program. So we're going to have the 2 cohorts this fall. The youth cohort will actually be in the school system, so it's a little bit more limited in terms of who can enroll in the youth cohort at this point in time. It's going to expand to other schools, but if you're at least 18, you can still apply to be a part of the adult program. And that adult program will be held within the community. We'll have a classroom within the community. And as Stephanie was saying, during that first semester, so from August to December, you become certified in this pilot year. It's HVAC technician, which is a really high demand skilled trade area that has competitive job opportunities, pays a decent living wage, and is a great opportunity for people who are interested in that. If HVAC technician is not your career of choice, we will be offering in years. So August of 26, August of 27, and August of 28, we will be doing 2 youth and 2 adult cohorts for those additional 3 years of the program. And we will be offering different skill traits. So we're actually going to be polling and figuring out what people are most interested in, and then determining which additional skill traits we'll be offering. Now, we believe that it's really important for people to be passionate about what they're doing for their career if they want to have that job retention and that longevity in that career. So although the DIVE VRT program under this 5-year grant is focusing on skilled trades, the core components of the DIVE program have been designed to be adaptable to different types of careers. So as this program grows over the years, we're going to be improving it through receiving feedback from stakeholders and making tweaks to the program until we have a really strong program that runs really effectively and efficiently. And once we get that in place, we're going to be working with other agencies and organizations who want to replicate, but they may want to look into other fields. The launch program that provided the foundation for DIVE, actually during the first semester of that program, it's helping those transition age students to identify their interests, their talents, their skills, and their support needs to help develop opportunities in areas that they're going to be happy with. Not just saying, okay, we're going to teach. We're not trying to funnel people into any specific type of career. We want people to be able to select the career that they want to do and that they're passionate about, so that it will be long lasting and not just a temporary thing. So are there questions or?
Tammy, can I just add something before we get into questions?
Sure.
One of the things that you did touch on was the certification. So I did want to make sure that we kind of clarify what those certifications look like. So everything that will be done throughout the curriculum will be preparatory for the HVAC excellence exam that they'll be able to take. What that does is provides the learner with the ability to become industry recognized, certified with NATE Ready to Work, EPA 608, OSHA 10 for industry or OSHA 30 construction are all available certifications. So by the time they walk away from this program, they will be ready to go to an employer with a full certification. So another piece that we're very excited about is to be able to get those job ready certified individuals right into the workforce. And again, the skilled trades right now, it is a very high demand industry. It is very hard to get qualified workers and to be able to maintain qualified workers. We've spoken with numerous employers and they are very excited about the program and the prospecting of being able to have such qualified candidates come out of the gate. So again, just wanted to kind of add that last piece about the certification and prep.
And this is a big project team. We have the launch employees who are helping us to adapt that launch curriculum. We have the VRGLI virtual reality experts. We have USF's research technology team working on integrating artificial intelligence. And we're actually at USF next fall of 25, opening the nation's first artificial intelligence cybersecurity. I think it's in computing sciences. It's a college specifically for these advanced technologies. And so we're leveraging the resources that we have to have the most state-of-the-art technology integrated into this programs, and we're able to, through that replication process, help translate that information to other agencies and organizations so that that can be integrated. These tools can be integrated. It used to be, you know how technology is, as soon as you buy a smartphone, the next version is out, or a gaming console, next version comes out. VR headsets, next version comes out. It's moving so quickly, and it has become such an affordable resource and is becoming more and more user friendly. We all use AI, even if we don't think about it. If you talk to your phone, if you have a smartphone, I'm not gonna say we all, but most people have talked to Siri or talked to Alexa or used chat boxes to communicate. When those chat boxes come up, a lot of times you're talking with a AI assistant who will, if they can't answer your question, they'll send you to an actual person. So it's more out there than many people even recognize or imagine. We're just trying to we're trying to leverage that technology to help make sure that people have the ability to learn more quickly, be more immersed into that learning, have greater retention. So we've got a lot of that built into this project. We also have an innovative education team that also has an award-winning, award-winning studio. They've got a wall full of Emmys for their work. They just do incredible work, and they are helping us to develop that user-friendly replication course. They're also helping us with some marketing. They're developing a commercial for us that we're going to be using for next year's recruitment purposes. The other thing that I wanted to just highlight again is that by collaborating with the school system, it takes away a lot of potential barriers to participation. We actually are working with Hillsborough County Schools to have the dive program, the courses, the time that the youth will spend in this program, be elective courses within their actual schedule. So that takes away transportation issues, just over sometimes after a full day of school, you don't want to have to go to another school to take additional. So having it be electives and integrated right into their normal school day, we hope will promote engagement, attendance, retention. So we'll continue to share information through our website as we move from development to implementation over the next few months and over the next few years as we continue to improve the program. Excuse me. So are there any questions? Well, we appreciate you being here for this conference and for our presentation.
Welcome back from lunch, everyone. I hope you all had a great lunch and had a chance to eat something. So our next speaker is our very own Denise Barnes. So Denise works in the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences for the Florida Center for Inclusive Communities and the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. She wears multiple hats here. As a consultant for CARD, she travels through 6 of CARD's 14 county area, providing direct and technical assistance to families, agencies, and educational facilities relating to autism. As the FCIC Employment Coordinator, she hosts an annual EVC Talent Actualized conference. This conference coordinates employment and post-secondary webinars for persons across the state of Florida, is the FCIC Community Advisory Committee liaison, and creates fact sheets and related employment data for persons with disabilities. She holds a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling and community inclusion from Wayne State University and an undergraduate degree in behavioral sciences from Northern Michigan University. Denise has worked in the human services field providing support for people with disabilities since 1987. She has been a direct care worker, social worker, disability program navigator, and a supported employment coordinator. She also serves on various committees in the community and at USFs. She's the co-chair for the Hillsborough County Alliance for Citizens with Disabilities, YES supporter, Safe Kids Suncoast, CAR Diversity Committee member, and she also serves on the board for the Florida APSI. So Denise will be discussing in her presentation Disability Employment Awareness Month as a resource for employers. Take it away, Denise.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for that. We are going to talk about disability awareness, employment awareness as a resource tool for employers. We are saying employers, but this can be used by anyone who supports a person with a disability. These are things that you can do in your everyday life. You already know who I am. If you need to contact me, my contact information is here. I'll also share it again at the end. And just want to thank you for that. 2025 is the 80th anniversary of the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And thus far in 2025, the Department of Labor, the deemed sites and the links are very limited. They're not as fully functional as they have been in previous years. However, we can locally continue to bring awareness to the importance of hiring people of all abilities to make our workplaces integral places that work for all people, despite race, despite creed, despite color, or varying abilities.
My name is Fraser Campbell. I'm 21 years old, and I currently work in EVC training with the data team. I have autistic spectrum disorder. I was approached and offered an opportunity as part of a program called Think Differently, which Keystone Training were running alongside Brentwood and a couple of other third parties. Everyone's really friendly, really open. There's no real nastiness about it. Anyone can talk to anyone about anything and not really feel afraid. When I'm assigning me a task, Keystone Training will ask if I understand the task, what I'm meant to do, what problems that might arise, and if those problems arise, what I can do about them and who I can speak to if I'm not entirely sure what I'm meant to be doing. My advice is you shouldn't really suppress who you are for the sake of getting a job. I think you should just be yourself. I think if I tried to suppress who I was, I probably wouldn't get very far here. My ambitions is to hopefully continue working with Keystone Training for the foreseeable future.
And that's why disability employment awareness is very, very important, because the future is brighter for individuals who have the opportunities to experience that in real workplaces in the community. I also want to share this for you guys. This video is a TED Talk, and it's on how to help employees with disabilities thrive in the way that we work.
When it comes to beating cancer, your first choice is your best chance. For the right diagnosis and life-saving treatment plan, choose Moffitt first.
All around the world, there's a huge disability employment gap. In most countries, the unemployment rate for people with disabilities is twice that of people without disabilities. Often, it's as high as 80%. There are over 1 billion people in the world living with a disability. To have 80% of us unemployed, that's so much untapped potential. As someone with a paralyzed arm and living with a mental health disability who's worked in the financial sector and entertainment and tech, I know that having a disability doesn't bar you from doing good work. So it's shocking to me that this disability employment gap is so persistent. In the US, the Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination in hiring and requires employers to provide reasonable accommodations. And studies show that companies who prioritize disability inclusion are more profitable overall. So what exactly is the problem? Recruiters, human resources staff, managers, they tend to think of hiring people with disabilities as a social good or as something they have to do to meet a quota. But they should be hiring disabled people because of our strengths and all of the value and innovation we can bring. Here are 3 things every workplace can do to truly welcome people with disabilities. It's not comprehensive, but it's a start. First, Stop making assumptions. Our culture tends to treat disability as a medical diagnosis, a tragedy, or a charity case. And all of these things are rooted in pity. They prevent us from being seen as peers and equals. These assumptions lead to a lot of avoidance. People tend to not ask us about our lives and hobbies outside of work, or don't invite us to company social outings. There's so much fear about saying the wrong thing that instead people say nothing at all. They treat disabled people like we're invisible, when all we want is to be seen and heard and accepted like anyone else. These assumptions also make people jump to conclusions about what we can and can't do without even asking. For me, assuming I can't type because I can't use one of my arms, or assuming a blind person can't be an engineer, when to succeed at work, you need to have people who see your full potential, because without that, nobody wins. So please, take the time to get to know us, invite us to things, ask us the same kind of questions you would of any colleague. What drew you to this work? What are your goals? What do you hope to do from here? And listen to our answers, but also respect our boundaries. If there's something we're not comfortable discussing, we'll let you know. And anytime you feel unsure, just ask us privately so we can make those decisions. You can even start by saying, I'm still learning how to get better at talking about disability. Second, rethink accessibility and accommodations starting now. Disability takes so many different forms. It can be about someone's sight, hearing, or mobility. It can be ADHD, dyslexia, or chronic pain. About 62% of employees with disabilities have ones that are not apparent. So even if you don't think there are people with disabilities in your organization, there probably are. And that's why I strongly recommend that workplaces create spaces with disability and accessibility in mind. That way, you're paving the way for future employees, clients, and customers who might benefit from accommodations too. At one of my first jobs at an investment bank, the company did something cool. Within a month of starting, I and all other new hires got an ergonomic assessment of our workstations. They actually had a person thinking about my access needs in multiple ways, like getting a footrest and keyboard wrist pad, which a lot of colleagues got, to asking if I might benefit from speech-to-text technology because I type with one hand. I've always tried to find these little hacks to make my work environment more comfortable, but the fact that this person offered so many options proactively, it made me feel so welcome without making me feel like my needs were special. It would be amazing if every employer could do some version of this. I mean, why not? But there are also more simple things that can make an impact. Like, what about listing accessibility information if you're hosting an event? Or automatically turning on captions for video meetings? Another way to think about this is, what do my employees need in order to thrive? It starts with equipping people with a variety of tools. Third, embrace flexibility, like disabled people have had to do our whole lives. People with disabilities have been advocating for remote work environments and flexible hours for decades now. And it took a pandemic for the world to realize it could happen. All of a sudden, this thing that seems so wild has become commonplace. And this isn't the first time I can think of when an accommodation for people with disabilities ended up improving life for society at large. Audiobooks, curb cuts, closed captioning, even electric toothbrushes. Disability is so often the root of innovation. So as we get back to the office, let's remember that all of us can thrive with flexibility. For people with disabilities, let's provide the option to work remotely at the hours when we can be the most productive from wherever works best. I mean, some of us do great working from our bed. And really, let's hold on to the openness that we can work around everyone's needs. Let's keep finding ways to embrace flexibility as part of our company's culture. We know that companies need to work harder on hiring us, retaining us, promoting us, paying us fairly, and amplifying our efforts. To do that, we need to stop making assumptions, rethink accessibility, and embrace flexibility. That is what will help close the disability employment gap.
So previously, offered through the Department of Labor, there was a toolkit, and it had been updated annually, and there were posters, and there was always a new theme. And so this year, I'm encouraging us to not wait until we get that from the Department of Labor. Let's create our own theme so that we can continue Disability Employment Awareness Month in our own areas. So let's take what has been established and build upon it to make sure that everyone has an opportunity for real work, for real wages, for real wages. And you ask how? Disability employment awareness from the inside out. We can do that. We can have awareness initiatives on an ongoing basis. We can also provide a mentoring day activity at your job site. It doesn't matter where you work. It can be you. If you're self-employed, you can bring in a person who has a disability and have them model you or shadow you for the day. Take your kids to work day. Ask your employer, in addition to take your kids to work days, be a mentor day. Bring in someone with a disability and mentor them at your job site for the day. Do a tour, offer a tour, let them know what you do, let them experience different jobs. You can display the posters, all the posters that they've been using on the Department of Labor, they are still there. You can download them. The one for that came out last year in 2024, I'll show you on the next slide. They even have a way that you can customize that. So every year you can put new pictures in there and show individuals in your community who are working real jobs in the community or who are being mentored by employers. You can offer ASL training classes to your employees, to your neighbors. Get your local library to offer a class. You can interview students with disabilities when you do campus recruiting trips. Make sure if there's not a student with a disability being interviewed for that campus recruiting trip, they need to find one so that you can interview them and increase awareness that they are also valuable people who are on that campus who are also looking for employment. You can host a disability one-on-one event, and you may be like, well, what is that? You just ask an employer, do you want to learn about a disability? And you either bring someone in or you present yourself on a particular disability at that work site. You can host a bring your student to work day. You can adopt a school where people can volunteer. You can adopt a school where your employees can be mentors for the students at that school. You want to incorporate disability into your onboarding process. That should be something that's accessible. Your application should not disqualify people if they check yes, that they have a disability. Your application should, if they check yes, it should say, what accommodations do you need? And then go from there instead of just tossing them out and saying they're not qualified for your job, because you don't know what disability a person has. You can also utilize year-round employer strategies for advancing disability inclusion. And all of the resources that I'll be talking about today, you guys will get a copy of eventually from this presentation. So this is Goodwill, and this is the video. This is the poster I'm talking about that they used for last year. But this video talks about their efforts for Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Walgrip started his journey with Goodwill as a student at high school high tech. After graduating, he began volunteering at the Goodwill in Port Charlotte, working on developing job skills with his coach, Mary Jane Nickerson, a Goodwill Pathways to Work employment consultant.
So I first met Will when he started volunteering at our Port Charlotte store. He did a fantastic job. You could tell he enjoyed it. He was always doing what he could to be very helpful. You know, he wanted to be helpful. He enjoyed being there and things like that.
Jamie got promoted to manager of the Kings Highway Goodwill and thought of Will when a position opened up and offered him his first job.
She said, I will hire Will. I want Will. I've been over at that store and I have watched him work and how dedicated he is and how, you know, he calls in even as a volunteer when he's not coming, and how he comes and he gets in here and he works. He doesn't sit, he doesn't take breaks, he just works. He said, and I will hire him. I want him. And so she did whatever she could to hire him.
Part of our mission is, you know, to help people overcome any barriers or boundaries. And through Pathways, he was able to do that. And then he was able to, you know, get a job. And, you know, it's nice to see it all come full circle.
Will is like very polite, gets along very well with his other associates, and is very good with the customers.
All the customers know who he is because he's out on the floor and he greets people. He will help people. I have watched him go from one end of the store to get something for a customer and go all the way to the other. And he has trouble with his hips and he has some trouble walking sometimes, but he will do it. No questions asked. You know, that's where.
He'll find things also that might be priced or damaged or something that could hurt our customer that he'll bring back in here. You know, stuff that we're not telling him to do, but he does on his own.
He gives 150%, not 110, 150. That's Will. and always with a smile on his face, always.
Will has been with Goodwill for 3 years now and loves every minute of it.
I love one Goodwill because I love it. Nice and love helping the customers.
And so I love access to good jobs for all. And I'm trying to use a lot of videos and images from the state of Florida, but in those, there were some instances where I couldn't find things in the state of Florida. So I have some things that are national in regards to disability employment awareness. So incorporate disability into your onboarding process. You want to make disability outreach a priority. You want to utilize the website Ask Jan, which is askjan.org for accommodations for current or future employees before your application process cancels them out for checking yes on the application. Most accommodation costs little money and no time to implement. You can utilize community partners to offer employment services to understand how to work with neurodiverse or other persons with disabilities. Disabilities extend beyond the federal census questions and required responses to do you wear glasses or smoke. Neurodiversity can mean ASD or autism spectrum disorder. It can mean ADD, attention deficit disorder. It can mean ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It could mean Tourette's. It could mean sensory processing or sensitivities, and much more. Being neurodiverse may not does not necessarily mean a person has an intellectual disability. For example, only 35% of those individuals with autism also have an intellectual disability. You and your company can offer tours of your business to schools and youth clubs. You can offer work-based learning experiences. You can offer on-the-job training and internships for high school students and college students with disabilities under the current WIOA funding options. You can invite high school students to participate in your recruitment events in the community and at your job sites. Hosting a Disability 101 event for employees and other employers to learn about working with people with disabilities not like them, but who are fully qualified and capable of working alongside them. You can find free webinars on the internet like this one from Respectability and local employment providers, the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, nonprofit agencies such as FCIC, CARD, Launch, or disability-specific nonprofit agencies like the Epilepsy Center or the Tourette's Center. They also do those things.
This is Steve Bartlett. I'm the chairman of Respectability and ready to start off this webinar on developing and sharing ways to include more persons with disabilities in the operations of the nonprofit world. So I think we're live. Is that right?
And that's just an example. So
my name is Steve Bartlett.
This webinar is an hour. And so it can be a lunch and learn. It doesn't have to take a full day. It can just be something simple and it can be something related to the employer's interest. Top 10 recruitment tips to attract people with disabilities. Interview them. You want to take students on campus and business tours. Invite high school students to come in and participate. Invite college students to come in and participate in your hiring events. Or if you're going to a recruiting event for CareerSource or some other employment agency, ask, are you going to invite students with disabilities to this event? I want to make sure I interview one of those individuals. And so some things that you can do to attract individuals with disabilities is add promotional messages and welcoming language that lets them know that they're welcome. You want to broaden your media approaches. You want to go outside of just social media because people use more than just social media to see things. You want to announce it on the news. You want to announce it at their school. You want to announce it through other nonprofit agencies. You want to network with local, regional, and national organizations. You want to provide scholarships or further education or employment-related training to them so that they know that this is something that you're interested in doing and you're a potential place that they may be able to find employment or seek other assistance from. You want to utilize peer and family connections because they know what's out there. They know who's hiring. You know who's hiring. You know that your friend just opened up a restaurant. They need 10 new staff people, but nobody else knows that if they don't know your friend. But you know that information, so you want to share it. You want to promote disability inclusion as an organizational value, which means that everybody can work with the right supports. That's basically it. You want to train all your staff and volunteers to be kind and courteous to everyone, to be open and non-biased. You want to provide equal access to the screening and the selection process, and you want to diversify your staff and volunteers. As it was said before, the more diverse your staff is, the greater your company can be, because then they see more than just one-sided. You want to offer a variety of options for volunteers at your company, or seek a variety of options for the individuals with disabilities to volunteer at. They can volunteer at almost any business that's open that will allow it. You want to consider skill-based volunteering at your job site. Is there a specific skill they want to learn? I took in a gentleman last summer who wanted to learn how to use Excel spreadsheets, and he used a whole lot of Excel spreadsheets. He learned how to create them, how to use data, how to manage data. So you can create opportunities for that. You can offer or apply for volunteer grants with nonprofits such as the Martin, provide funding for you to do a service project in the community. You can partner with schools that serve students with disabilities. Okay. You can partner with schools with students that serve disabilities. My Zoom went out, sorry for that. So promote the events to local nonprofits, because I'm not sure what everyone heard. My Zoom went out. You can also do passive and active National Disability Employment Awareness Month activities. You can post a poster at any business. You can post it at your house if you want to. You can put it in your back window if you want to. You can encourage all the employers you know to post it, so that they know that this is something that's actually true. You can solicit a proclamation from your city council and also from your local board of commissioners, your county board of commissioners, for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Why would you want to do that? Because it's going to be publicized on television. It's going to announce that this is a good thing. It's going to announce that this is a way that you can increase employment options for individuals with disabilities in your local community. And you want to do it every year so that you keep bringing it to the forefront of individuals. National Disability Employment Awareness Month is typically celebrated in October, but you can choose to do it anytime that you want to do it. But you want to just make sure that they do a proclamation to keep that in the forefront. You can host a management breakfast or a brown bag lunch, and it can be on any disability topic that you want to, or you can have a person with a disability speak about their experience with working and the types of supports and accommodations that they received. You can hold a poster contest with the local school about what kind of jobs they want when they get older, or what businesses in the community do they want to work at, and what specific job skills do they want to do, and have them draw those and show those. You can feature Disability Employment Awareness Month in your local newsletter. You can share it on social media. You can promote it, create it. You can reach out to your local media and have them share stories about it. You can go through YouTube and find a plethora of videos on Disability Employment Awareness Month activities that are happening across this nation and internationally as well. And you can also develop a Disability Employment Awareness webpage or join a social media group that deals with that. You can start a local group in your community should you want to do that as well. Should you want to do that as well. There are lots of Disability Day resources that are out there. There's a Disability Mentoring Day Toolkit. It helps you learn more about Disability Mentoring Day, and you gain tips on virtual events that you can do, job shadowing events, media outreach, and more. And it also talks about engaging with the actual day and how to start your own event. The toolkit has a frequently asked questions section, and it keeps in mind to help you stay organized with the event on how to keep organize the applications, the applicants, the employers, the job sites. And then if there are questions that are not covered, there's a resource for that as well. You will get a copy of this Disability Mentoring Day Toolkit because I happen to have downloaded it in 2023. So you will get the 2023 copy, and you can just update it or modify it for your needs. It's a great resource, and it's no longer available on the Department of Labor. There's the Workforce Recruitment Program, which is the acronym is WRP. And this is a program of pre-screened college students with disabilities. And they are experts or they're experienced individuals with disabilities. Our local agency that is an expert with DEEM is Able Trust. And they have a connection with High School High Tech. And they also have a white paper that's out there on Disability Employment Awareness Month and the importance of it. DEEM is a great time to get involved in the Federal Exchange on Employment and Disability, also known as FEED. And that's an interagency working group focused on information sharing, best practices, and collaborative partnerships designed to make the federal government a model employer of people with disabilities. And then there's the Employee Resource Group. The acronym is ERG. And you can join or create a business resource group or an affinity group to discuss your needs and how you can make your workplace an opportunity for all, to learn about the value of work or how to meet your employment needs via an untapped resource. Here's an example from Mod Pizza of their summer earn and learn program that helps students with disabilities land jobs.
Job are now getting a boost in the San Antonio area.
Tiffany Huertas with the hundreds of job openings custom made for students of all types, including those who are of disabilities aged 16 to 22.
There are a lot of job opportunities at Mod Pizza.
The students who participate in our program do a variety of things. So they can do things that range that anybody in our team can do. So some things are things like folding boxes and making drinks, or pressing dough.
Mod Pizza is one of the employers participating in the Summer Earn and Learn program.
Our culture is to have our restaurants mirror what our community is like, and really be just an employer that is diverse, but also fun.
The program is led by Workforce Solutions Alamo.
It is a program that is a career pathway for individuals with varying abilities.
Last year, about 364 students participated in the program with 53 participating employers.
It actually connects individuals and gives them the opportunity to build their resume. And so they have the opportunity to work up to 8 weeks.
This year, other employers participating include the San Antonio Food Bank, the Marriott, and CVS. The program is designed for students 16 to 22 years old, and they are currently looking for more participants.
Currently, we have 27 employers that are participating, and we have over 260 positions available.
Tiffany Huertas, KSAT 12 News.
And this image is from our launch program. They do employment mentoring and tours and workspace experiences for their students. And this is one of those that they were doing at the Galaxy, the VR Galaxy Lounge, so that they can have real world experience. This one is about a project search site. Just so that you know that Project Search is, they have it as a high school component for those that are in high school and coming out of high school between 18 and 21. And they get referred from school and they go into it and they work part of the day. And they also process job struggles and questions and decisions on the job site as well. And then the goal is that they get hired by that job. There are also some adult Project Search sites like MTC has one at the Tampa Zoo that they actually train them and then people get hired. They also have one with Moffitt. And so there's different ones across the nation, but if you are an employer, you can become a Project Search site for adults or youth.
Project Search is a transitional work program for young adults between the ages of 18 to 22. They are selected from our schools in St. Lucie County. We pick 12 young adults each year to then intern in the hospital at Cleveland Clinic and Tradition.
It's rewarding to be able to have the interns come in and from day one, tell them you're a caregiver. You're a caregiver just like every single one of us here. and that they're going to play an integral role in taking care of our patients because every job in here is important.
So for the staff, I think a lot of the students, they give a breath of fresh air to the department. They come in with great attitudes, smiling faces.
I love having them. In fact, I look for them to come to me. What they do is they help me with my work, and they really do make a good impact.
I can't speak highly enough about this project search. It's really encouraging.
Just seeing them grow each and every day is just a beautiful thing. Everybody wants to be employed, and so having a direct role in helping them get dream jobs and have these moments where you have students that you know that's what they wanted all year, and they get that job and they look at you, and I've had those moments where they've told me, this is my dream job, thank you. And it's so rewarding.
So I would highly recommend other employers to become involved and develop the partnerships to bring in those with disabilities. We all need to contribute to the community and to be able to provide this for them so they can help provide for family. It's a complete win situation.
Was through Employ You. And then allow visits to your job site to learn about what you do and how you do it, and give people the opportunity to ask questions and to touch and feel and to see not just virtual images of what you do, but to have some hands-on experience with what you're doing in the community. There's also the Cleveland Clinic, which is not in Florida. They also do a project search, and I wanted to share this video with you as well.
Project Surge is a transitional work program for young adults between the ages of 18 to 22. They are selected from our schools in St. Lucie County. We pick 12 young adults each year.
This is the same one. I apologize. Saw that one already. This is offer tours of your business, as I said before, so people can see what's going on. They can see what kind of jobs are out there, because they may know that, such as a recreational facility, you know there's someone at the ticket counter, but you don't know that there are other jobs in there. There's facilities. There are individuals who do repairs and maintenance. There's someone who has to maintain the surf. And so you give them those opportunities as youth and as young adults with disabilities, and then that expands their knowledge of jobs that are out there in the community. You can offer jobs in interest areas. There are several places. I know FCIC did a webinar last year with the Florida School for the Blind, and also another school in North Florida. And they have farms, and they have gardens, and they have like little Saturday market fairs. And the students are the ones who do all the work, and it's based on what their interests are. And so here's something similar to that.
You just walk and spread it around. It's my favorite task.
We employ people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we offer them a welcoming community. We also grow organic vegetables along the way. And through all of that, we teach our growers basic employment skills. They can grow faster and
what do we do?
They're not die when they're partially grown.
I'm always showing the employees how to do everything step by step. So I really try to stick with it until they fully understand. Then I slowly back off. And my goal is to get to the point where I can be like, all right, so-and-so, can you please go transplant? They know how to get their tray, what tools they need. But other days, we just have to get the job done. Like today, we had to spread seeds, so it was raining, but we've had to do it.
I am a big fan of chickens. Being coops out, get eggs, and you get fresh water. I have a big coop at home, like 10 chickens.
He does love it. He loves to get his hands dirty. He likes to be involved. With that comes success. When he plants something and he sees it growing, he's very proud of himself.
This is buckwheat, which is a quick growing cover crop. Beef and soil.
So 2015, we spent that year learning how to farm.
So I signed up for all of those classes, beginning farmer classes, how to get your hands dirty, the financial part of things. And then I read a lot of books. And we spent our first year just experimenting and throwing a lot of seeds in the ground
We have a severely autistic child named Max, our son.
Max is 11 years old, turning 12 in November. He is a high energy boy. He's nonverbal. Being out here also gives him an opportunity to burn off some of his energy in a way that we couldn't give him when we lived in the middle of Washington, D.C.
So Max was the inspiration for the farm, but he wasn't the whole reason we did the farm. People with those developmental and intellectual disabilities have over 80% unemployment rate, and we're trying to change that. People are not in the employment picture. You know, they end up being socially isolated, as I mentioned, and it also puts financial burden on families.
Sprinkle fertilizer on top. Yeah, where do we have fertilizer? Well, this thing can do well.
Farming really helps people with developmental and intellectual disabilities because it's a lot of small tasks that you need to do with your hands, which a lot of people might not have great hand-eye coordination or something like that. And it's also a lot of fine motor skills, which can also be really difficult. They can learn that, all right, the world might be set up this way, but I can make accommodations for myself. I can go outside the box and create a tool that's going to help me get the job done no matter what. Hey, Josh, want to give me a hand?
Yeah. Look for the goats.
We want to be a stepping stone. If somebody wants to continue to work here, that's great. But if they get another job outside of here, we're thrilled.
We moved out here to kind of build our own tribe and surround ourselves with similar people. And I think we've succeeded in that.
And this is this one is called Monty Tech Workforce Training Program. It's similar to our launch program here at USF. But I wanted to show a video of some individuals transitioning from a transition program in their success in graduating from that program.
Take what you do best and create a website that's worthy of it.
Tonight at Greater Boston starts with rewarding hard work, and a group of recent graduates are ready to work thanks to an on-the-job training program specifically for young adults with special needs. WBC's Julia McDonald shows us how the new program is really changing lives.
He was gung-ho, loved working with our customers, and was always very polite, such good work ethic.
Daniel Velez could hardly wait to get his hands on that certificate because of what this accomplishment means.
I feel really proud that I did this.
He's one of 12 people to graduate from Monty Tech's first ever grant-funded workforce training program, specifically designed for young adults with disabilities.
I was in graphic communications, which was really exciting. The process was really interesting. We used lots of machines and it was just so awesome.
The students learned not only what to do on the job, but how to get a job. Things like interview etiquette and resume writing, how to show bosses why they'd be such a good employee.
I get my tasks done and stuff like that.
You sound like a really good worker.
Yeah, I am.
I like help out.
You like to help?
Yes.
And what else?
I'm kind. I am.
You're kind?
Kind.
You like to help out and be kind?
Yes.
That makes you a great worker.
Yes.
Monty Tech in Fitchburg plans to expand the program and hopes other vocational schools follow their lead.
I think they're very brave. I think they face a lot of challenges, and I think the least we can do is open a few doors.
Meaningful work for men and women who offer priceless value.
I am great.
Because you are great.
That's a good answer.
In Fitchburg, Julie McDonald, WBZ News.
And so a few resources that are also out there that you can utilize in doing any of these. There's the USDA Disability Mentoring Toolkit. As I said, Able Trust has a white paper on mentoring as a disability inclusion strategy, and there's a couple more. There's a video on YouTube called Critical Mentoring Webinar by Tori Weinstein, and they changed the title, and now it's called You've Got to Call This Something Else. So if you type in You've Got to Call This Something Else, you'll find that video now. There's the Disability at Work. It's a framework for employing people with disabilities. There's National Disability Employment Awareness Month 2024 by the ARC Central, the Chesapeake region. And they have done some great and wonderful things. Does anyone have any questions about this presentation so far? Alex says she's at the Project Search Skills Trainer at the Zoo Tampa project sponsored by MTC. And if you would like more information about Project Search at Zoo Tampa, feel free to reach out to her, and her contact information is in the chat. And I do apologize, I didn't know that Zoom went out for everyone, and that there was difficulty getting it back in. Levine says, as a waiver support coordinator, our job is not developing jobs, but we refer consumers to vocational rehab, and your information is crucial and critical and very helpful for the individuals that we serve. And you think both rehab and supported employment providers will greatly benefit from this information. And it's also possible for you guys as support coordinators to have a job shadowing day that you can bring in your clients with disabilities and have them shadow you for a day to see what it's like. And get that experience, because many of them don't know what it's like to have an office job. And I'm in discussion with APD now to see how you guys can make that work and get credit for it.
Okay, so we are going to jump right into our next presentation, which I am very excited to introduce our presenters. The title of their presentation is Disability Underrepresentation in Apprenticeships. Can we fix this? Implementing an Apprenticeship Toolkit. So our presenters today are Dr. Stuart Rumrill, Dr. Brian Austin, and Jim Knopf. They're from the University of Illinois Urbana campaign that led a 14-month apprenticeship learning community uniting 10 national stakeholders to create an innovative apprenticeship toolkit tailored for people with disabilities, their supporters, employers, and VR counselors. The toolkit empowers employers to meet workforce needs while fostering inclusive workplaces. Join U of I's 3 facilitators for an interactive session exploring how this newly published toolkit can drive employer engagement, connect with business needs, and expand apprenticeship opportunities for people with disabilities. Our first presenter is Dr. Stuart Rumrill. He's a postdoctoral research associate in the Department of Kinesiology and Community Health at the University of Illinois, and a research evaluation specialist for the Illinois Subminimum Wage to Competitive Integrative Employment Project. The acronym for that is SWTCIE. His work activities include research, development, and dissemination surrounding career development and work and well-being for people with disabilities, co-facilitating a national apprenticeship learning community, and working closely with the Illinois Department of Human Services and other state vocational rehabilitation agencies to provide training and intensive technical assistance. He is also a certified rehabilitation counselor and licensed professional counselor. Our next presenter is Dr. Brian Austin. He is the Director of Evaluation of the Illinois Institute for Rehabilitation and Employment Research. Acronym for that is IIRER. He is currently responsible for developing and conducting an evaluation of 2 U.S. Department of Education / Rehabilitation Services Administration grant-funded projects. One of them is the Subminimum Wage to Competitive Integrated Employment. And the second one is Pathways to Partnerships, Improving Transition Outcomes of Illinois Students with Disabilities. In addition, Brian contributes to the Vocational Rehabilitation Technical Assistance for Quality Employment, another U.S. Education Department and Rehabilitation Services Administration grant-funded project, providing technical training and technical assistance to state federal vocational rehabilitation agencies in the area of client assessment, VR career counseling, apprenticeships, and on-the-job training. Finally, our next presenter is Jim Knopf, who serves as a project manager for the SWTCIE Illinois project at the University of Illinois Urbana campaign. He joined the U of I in February 2023 after a 37-year career with the Illinois Department of Human Services, the last 14 working in administration with the Division of Rehabilitation Services. Jim served as Assistant Bureau Chief, training unit managers and policy advisors within the state's lead agency in placing individuals with disabilities into employment. In these capacities, he has worked closely with community rehabilitation facilities, centers for independent living, and the State Rehabilitation Council, and provides the project with a solid background in state government. I will hand it over now to our presenters.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for to the folks at the University of South Florida for inviting us to talk about apprenticeships today. And I want to say hello from Madison, Wisconsin. My colleague Brian and I were here in Madison at the QE conference, and Jim's going to be joining us tomorrow. So of course we're in Wisconsin, we're based in Illinois, and we're talking to you guys in Florida. So we're trying to take this apprenticeship stuff nationwide here to spread the good word and tell you a little bit about the apprenticeship situation right now for people with disabilities and accessibility and inclusivity and things like that. And we also want to tell you a little bit about some of the work that we've done here at the U of I, the University of Illinois, specifically in the form of this apprenticeship toolkit that we developed. If we could go to the next slide, please. So, we want to give a brief background first on what exactly apprenticeships are and what they entail. One thing that we have noticed in our work here with apprenticeships is that a lot of folks, there's not much familiarity with apprenticeships, kind of just the basic of, how they're structured, again, what they entail, what the benefits of them are logistically, state VR agency, what their role is within them. So we want to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about what exactly they are. We also want to talk about the unique benefits that they have for workers with disabilities. We will also talk about, we have some statistics to share with you all the past couple of years that show a very large underrepresentation of people with disabilities in registered apprenticeship programs that we think is unfortunate. We think that people with disabilities certainly could participate in a registered apprenticeship program. We think they would uniquely benefit from it. So we'll talk about those numbers, and we'll talk about why we think they would fit so well in this really successful program here. And then we'll talk about this learning community that we ran. I think it was mentioned in my bio there, that has since concluded, but it was a very successful 14-month-long apprenticeship learning community that consisted of about a dozen or so VR professionals from across the country. About 10 or 11 different states were represented. And we developed an apprenticeship toolkit that could be used to address some of the problems that we'll discuss today, that can be used by state VR professionals, that could be used by workers with disabilities or apprentices, apprenticeship seekers, employers too, who sponsor registered apprenticeship programs. So we'll talk briefly about the background of apprenticeships, the toolkit, how it was developed, but the meat of today's portion, we'll be talking about how to implement the toolkit there. And we'll talk about some of its contents, and we have a QR code, I think, on the screen to share with you all if you want to check it out fully later, but that's what we'll be discussing today. If we can please go to the next slide. So apprenticeships, what exactly are apprenticeship programs? Well, I always like to look at the root word when I'm thinking about what apprenticeship is, and obviously the word apprentice is there, which means a beginner at something, or a person typically who learns a trade from a skilled employer or mentor, typically in a formalized setting. So a little bit more operationally here. An apprenticeship, it's a program where a person, an apprentice, they receive both on-the-job training, so on the actual job site, and the experience, mentorship from someone who has been working there longer, and also that on-the-job training is accompanied by related classroom instruction to supplement the things that they learn on the job and the skills that they developed. Next slide, please. So the other thing with apprenticeships too is that there are registered apprenticeship programs, frequently called RAPs or RAPs. So RAPs, registered apprenticeship programs, or apprenticeships that are not registered. So when we say they're registered, that means that they are registered with the Department of Labor. They register and oversee these apprenticeship programs. And in a lot of the work that we're doing here at the U of I, we're really emphasizing those that are registered as opposed to not. And the ones that are not registered are good. They have their place, but for reasons we'll discuss here in a bit, we favor them being registered and checked with the Department of Labor. And the Department of Labor, they define an apprenticeship as an innovative work-based learning and post-secondary earn and learn model that meet their own national standards. So there are 5 key features of an apprenticeship program that it must meet in order to be registered with the Department of Labor. Number one, and I think this is the thing, just the basic piece of it that maybe a lot of people aren't so familiar with, is that apprenticeships are paid. They are jobs, and while people are receiving training, they are performing the work that they will ultimately be doing in their longer term employment. So participants are paid for the work that they do. Not only that, but there are scheduled wage increases. This is about, apprenticeship programs can last about 2 to 4 years on average. Every 6 to 12 months, apprentices receive a 10 to 20% pay increase. So they must be paid and they must have scheduled wage increases. The programs must meet the national standards to be registered with the Department of Labor, things like safety standards, things like curriculum standards. There must also be those two elements of the on-the-job training and the job-related classroom or technical instruction, typically classes taken at a community college or a local university or something like that. So an apprentice will be going back and forth, usually within the same week. They'll be working on the job site, they'll be going to the community college, wherever they're taking their courses. So both of those elements must be there in order for it to be registered. Also, that on-the-job learning we talked about must be conducted under direction of one or more of the employer's personnel or a mentor. Kind of like on the previous slide, you saw people working side by side and, like in the early 20th century, being a shoemaker to a medieval baker and those sorts of things, to more modern day apprenticeship opportunities like in healthcare and STEM and those sorts of things. Someone working side by side. That doesn't mean that they always need to be there the entire duration, but just somebody there who is assigned to troubleshoot with them, to help encourage the worker, to instill motivation. So having that mentorship is the other critical piece. And then finally, the training, the on-the-job experience must lead to an industry recognized credential that certifies proficiency in whatever trade or career they are working in. These are credentials that employers really do value and that employers really do look for. So those are the 5 key features of a registered apprenticeship program. And usually when we say apprenticeships going forward, that's what we're referring to, ones that are registered. I won't go into a whole lot of detail on this slide, but this shows a comparison of a registered apprenticeship, which we just finished discussing, and a pre-apprenticeship. A pre-apprenticeship is basically something that's much shorter. It can be a few weeks or a few months in duration. This is typically, primarily, it's just coursework that people take to prepare them for a registered apprenticeship program. So it usually targets youth, people as early as age 16, or particularly those with disabilities who may need greater support in preparation before going into a registered apprenticeship program. So we just keep this up there just to say that pre-apprenticeships is something that we don't have time to discuss in depth today, but that's another really good thing to focus on here. So, thinking about different occupations that have apprenticeships, there's a term that the Department of Labor coined called apprenticeable. And they have this list that just continues to grow of what different occupations people can work in. The classic ones are things like the trades, construction, plumbing, but now we're seeing them in, banking, insurance, healthcare, hospitality, and tourism. And on the next slide, I have a little over 100 of the 1,000 occupations that are apprenticeable. So you'll see things like cosmetology here. You'll see journalism, aviation, paralegal. We've heard of things like beekeeping. I don't know if I've already said culinary arts, but virtually anything that someone could be interested in, there's likely an apprenticeship program for that. At least one in the nation. There's, for instance, I doubt there's a whole lot of beekeeping apprenticeships across the country, but they're there. There are some virtual apprenticeships, but the biggest ones tend to be, manufacturing, IT, and the trades is where there's the most opportunity for the different apprenticeship programs. If I go to the, yep. So who exactly are apprenticeships for? Well, obviously, job seekers, but one of the really great things about apprenticeship programs is that they really encourage and welcome people who are just starting their career, who are brand new. So thinking about people with disabilities, this could be youth in high school who are getting ready to graduate, getting ready to enter the workforce. Maybe they don't want to go to a college for a 4-year degree, but maybe they want more training, they want more instruction. Apprenticeships would be great for them. It doesn't just have to be youth as well. Maybe somebody was working for a long time in their career. They didn't have a disability, but they acquired a disability. Maybe they acquired MS, maybe they acquired a traumatic brain injury, something like that, where they've had to shift careers a little bit. So that might be a good thing as well. Somebody who's skilled and wants to begin a new career. But just basically anybody who is eager, anybody who is driven and motivated, and can obviously balance the demands of an apprenticeship program, because it is a lot of training, it is a lot of time, but we think it's a very rewarding experience. Next slide, please. So, why do we talk about this? Why do we think apprenticeships are so cool? Why should you care for them if you work with people with disabilities? Well, number one, we think that they're a really great option for overcoming barriers and enhancing the career and employment status of people with disabilities. And we think about this because, number one, people are paid competitive wages. There is the training and the on-the-job experience that someone receives very thorough, guidance from mentorship there. And so the fact that you have this sort of one-on-one model and people are developing their skills, if they're having challenges on the job, they can talk it over in their classroom. They learn things in the classroom to bring back to them at the work site. If there's specific disability-related challenges or barriers, say, for instance, an accommodation is needed, since they have this pre-existing one-on-one relationship with their mentor, we think that really sets things up to individualize the experience for a worker with disabilities, because there's just so much support there in place. So it is a job outcome in and of its own right. But once someone completes a registered apprenticeship program, they do technically still need to go out and get a full-time job. On the next slide, you'll see in just a moment, we have some numbers on just those retention rates, but the employability of somebody who completes a registered apprenticeship program is very, very good, and the pay that they earn is very, very good. The earn while they learn model is accessible to all levels of the labor force, and the credentials that people earn are portable as well. So we think there's some really great and unique benefits to workers with disabilities. We can please go to the next slide. And here's what I was talking about. So once an apprentice, for one, once they begin a program, most of them stick around. There's about a 90% 3-year retention rate in apprenticeship programs. And then say you have an apprentice, they're on the site, they're completing an apprenticeship program. 92% of them on average will just, they'll complete the program, and the employer mentor they work with will hire them on full time to continue employment there long term. And the vast majority of cases, that's what happens. And even for that, say, 8% where that's not the case, it could be due to just, resources of the employer or the agency. Either way, this person having completed this 2-4-year experience, earned these skills, gotten this credential, they're going to be very employable and very, very good employment rates for people who complete apprenticeship programs. The wages, we think, are very, very competitive. The average beginning starting wage is about $45,000 to $52,000 a year. But thanks to those scheduled wage increases, by the time somebody completes a registered apprenticeship program, their salary is, you're looking at about $84,000 a year. And that will translate to an average $300,000 more earnings in their lifetime than someone who did not complete an apprenticeship. This $300,000 figure is something that the Department of Labor reported back for the 2017 to the 2018 year. And I've read estimates that they haven't updated it since, but I've read some estimates and calculations. Some people think it's more now with just inflation and wage increases and apprenticeships becoming more popular. It's more like $670,000 to $700,000 in lifetime earnings. And that's a decent house in a nice city. So very, very big difference there. And then also once you factor in too, apprentices avoid student debt. You know, they don't pay tuition like a typical college student does. You know, their wages are actually usually covered by the employers, by unions, by government programs. So once you factor that in too, as we know, a lot of college students graduate with tens of thousands of dollars in debt. We completely avoid that in apprenticeship programs. So some really great benefits there. And so it's here, you know, that we get to the problem. Well, for one, let me say a good thing. Apprenticeships are really growing. I think even the current, presidential administration, they're quite pro apprenticeships. We're going to be continuing to see them grow. In the state of Illinois, they are growing in different sectors, such as clean energy. I think there's a lot of those. But from the year 2009 to the current year, 2025, there's been a 150% growth in the number of apprentices. So in the year of, well, we have some old findings there, but let's just focus on the bottom in the green. There's about 28,000 to 29,000 registered apprenticeship programs and approximately, call it 700,000 apprentices. Now, the issue is, approximately, 25% of the population has a disability. But if you look at all those current active apprentices right now, only just a mere, 1% of them identify as having a disability. Now, it's also not lost on us that that number is those who identify as having a disability. The real number is certainly higher than that because people haven't disclosed or identified for a couple different reasons. One, maybe they just don't need to, which is okay. That's good if they don't need to. But we suspect, and we've gotten this feedback in the work that we've done, there are a lot of folks who have disabilities. They're working in an apprenticeship program or employment. Again, they have a disability. They're experiencing challenges, but they don't want to disclose for, just fear of what might happen, uncertainty. They might think that they may be treated differently. They're not sure what their rights are under the ADA. So, we view that as a problem, and we'd like more people with disabilities to identify, and we'd like to see more representation in these apprenticeship programs. Next slide, please. So, ourselves at the U of I, myself, Brian, and Jim, we work for the Quality Employment Project at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That's what we're doing here right now. There's the Quality Employment Yearly Symposium. And that project has the goal of increasing the employment quality and quantity of employment outcomes for workers with disabilities. And we do this in a number of ways, such as partnering with different state VR agencies to provide them with technical assistance on different topics, such as apprenticeships. And then also we do different trainings. We host different work groups and learning communities. And that's one thing that we did. We hosted a learning community on apprenticeships. We presented to the QE community just an overview of what apprenticeships were. We shared older statistics on what we just shared with you all on the lack of disability representation in apprenticeship programs. I think it was about 2021. I mentioned it was about 1% of apprentices identify as having a disability. Now it's 1.3, so it's hardly changed at all. We said, here's the problem. Here's what we think about apprenticeships for people with disabilities, and we want to change this. So we invited people to join us, and we recruited about 11 stakeholders working in different state VR agencies to talk about this issue and how we might be able to solve it. So we met about once a month, and we talked about some of these issues. And, we were careful to not let these monthly meetings turn into just gripe sessions. We obviously had to talk a little bit about what the problem was. But after about 3 or 4 meetings, we said, okay, I think we're seeing a lot of overlap here. I think we're beginning to establish some themes. So if we could identify what are 3 of the biggest problems in this underrepresentation of those with disabilities in apprenticeships. And we condensed them into 3. So number 1, just a lack of knowledge about apprenticeships. Again, what they are, what they entail, what it looks like, VR's role, how closure in apprenticeship programs work, a lot of people not knowing. So therefore, a lot of people with disabilities weren't involved. Issues with collaboration. So, in a registered apprenticeship program, you have the state VR agency usually, you have the apprenticeship sponsor, you have the college who provides the supplemental, training and education. They all need to collaborate to some extent, and we heard a lot that that collaboration can be poor, leading to lower representation of those with disabilities. And then finally, that last piece I was just discussing, the disability identification and disclosure, people not knowing when would be appropriate to disclose, not knowing the benefits of disclosing their disability. So those were the three broad issues that we identified. And to respond to those, we published a manual or a toolkit, and we titled it Apprenticeships, Key Information, Sequence of Events, and Strategies for Enhanced Collaboration. And so this was developed within the group. Members would develop the content for it, and it was reviewed multiple times by the members, by ourselves at our institute at the U of I. And I believe on the next slide we have the QR code to access it if people want to check it out either now or after the fact. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So in the toolkit, you'll see basically, responses to each of those problem areas broken up into 4 sections. So sections 1 and 2 of the toolkit address the lack of knowledge on apprenticeships, both just the baseline background knowledge of apprenticeships to, the different steps and the logistics involved. Section 3 of the toolkit focuses on interagency collaboration and communication between those different parties that we've been discussing. And the last section of the toolkit talks about disability disclosure, specifically in the context of apprenticeship programs. We can go to the next slide, please. So here I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to talk a little bit about, this is the content of the toolkit itself. In section 1, again, to address that lack of knowledge, we have a list of frequently asked questions about apprenticeships. And within the toolkit, you'll see it's questions asked by 3 different stakeholders, apprentices, state VR counselors, and also employers. An employer who is thinking about, or they are sponsoring a registered apprenticeship program, they're contemplating or getting ready to recruit and hire a worker with a disability. What might be some of their questions? What might be some of their concerns? So in keeping with the theme of this conference on employer engagement, we're just going to focus on that last one and talk about kind of what the content says and provide a discussion on that. Brian or Jim, if you guys want to take it from here and talk a little bit about what's in the toolkit.
Sure, I can jump on here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, appreciate that discussion so far, Stuart. Yeah, we've like Stuart had mentioned, we had worked for over a year in a apprenticeship learning community, and we really, from multiple partners, and which is really eye-opening, and it was really nice to see us pull together a practical toolkit that hopefully will get utilized over time more and more to help increase outcomes, particularly in apprenticeships for people with chronic health conditions and disability. One of the areas that we focused on was frequently asked questions, and we wanted to make this toolkit applicable not just to vocational rehabilitation professionals, but also to workforce development partners, Office of Apprenticeship, and employers, and other related partners to apprenticeships. And so a few of the questions that unfolded in our toolkit and became paramount and that we're highlighting here, also and supported in the literature, is the unique challenges for workers with disabilities. And I think these will resonate with some of you out there. That's negative attitudes, stereotypes about what people with disabilities can and can't do, misperceptions in that regard, inaccessible workplaces. So kind of not considering the environment as we think about work tasks being done a certain way, we need to start thinking about it differently and considering how to change the environment so that is accessible to all. Also, discrimination also worsened by their specific conditions or workplace environments, like TBI or extreme temperatures as a couple examples. So those really, we have to just be open-minded as we think about how to work effectively with people with disabilities, but focusing again on abilities and strengths. And I think that's really what came out in our toolkit. And job accommodations, just what we already know, they're not very expensive. And this needs to kind of, I think, resonate. I think there's a misperception out there as to what typical job accommodations are. So at least 50% cost less than $500, 25% are free. But they vary. And so a conversation is key. So we can overcome these hurdles and improve the statistics that Stuart was saying in relation to people who at least identify as having a disability and achieving apprenticeship outcomes. Another is other misperceptions about workers with disabilities and that they need a lot of extra time to do their jobs, and that's not typically or necessarily the case. Or frequently require help. I mean, there can be one of your top workers show up, or reliable, and can get things done, just like anybody else without a disability. And the idea that only certain jobs are suitable also is not the case. We want to be thinking about, again, how the individual, their interests, abilities, strengths, and how they align with the particular job tasks of a position within a particular occupation as we think about apprenticeships. Jim, do you want to pick up where I left off here? Next slide.
Sure. Good afternoon. If you want to move to the next slide, when we talk about collaboration, we think about first thing we think about is those key players who are involved in the development and the success of an apprenticeship. And I tend to connect most of my thoughts and my words to something to do with sports, and here we've sort of connected this to baseball, and identified as the four key players here to apprenticeships as the employer, the sponsor, the RTI, or the related technical instruction provider, and support services. So the first piece of this is the employer, who we've identified in this case as the pitcher. The employer is the primary workplace where the apprenticeship gains all of his hands-on experience and performs all the job duties, obviously. The employer will provide the work environment, the supervision, and all the opportunities for skill development, which makes making them central to the apprenticeship success. So the connection to the baseball analogy, the pitcher, is that the pitcher is the central figure, and nothing happens in the game, and nothing gets started until the pitcher decides to initiate the pitch. They set the pace of the game and critical to the team's success, similar to how the employer drives the apprenticeship. The second component, the second key player, is the sponsor. And the sponsor is often either an organization, an employment group. It could be a union, like a labor union. who oversees the entire apprenticeship program. They make sure that that the program meets the standards and aligns with all industry needs. They coordinate the resources, the funding, and the partnership. They act as the big picture leader. And in baseball terminology, they would be the manager. They're the leader of the team. They make the decisions about who plays, what happens in particular game situations. They help to make sure that there's collaboration within the team, making sure that everybody works effectively together. And much like the sponsor, ensures that the apprenticeship program runs smoothly. He advocates for the team, the manager does, and just like how the sponsor provides support for the apprentice. The related technical instruction provider, or the RTI, delivers all of the classroom and all of the online education. They're the people who provide the on-the-job training, the theoretical knowledge of the position, technical skills, and ensuring that the apprenticeship has a strong foundation. That entity would be similar to the catcher on a baseball team. He calls the pitches and guides the game from behind the plate, has deep understanding of the game, and is crucial to the pitcher's success, just as the RTI provider provides the employer with the equipment and the essential knowledge. Catcher needs to be versatile and knowledgeable, and mirrors the RTI's provider role in delivering comprehensive instruction. The last person is the support service. Support service might be the mentor within the agency or the company, someone who is assigned to help guide the apprentice through the apprenticeship process. It could be a VR counselor, and programs that would help the apprentice overcome barriers. VR can provide support services. Those support services could be transportation assistance, housing during the course of the apprenticeship. It could be childcare, those sorts of things, any sort of supportive services that the apprentice may need. And the equivalent there is the first baseman, who's a key defensive player, helps to catch and stabilize the game and fielding the throws, covering the bases. He's a reliable presence, stability, and support, similar to how these services are provided to the apprentice, and keeps that apprentice on track. All right, next slide, please. So there are lots of key players in the apprenticeship process. Kind of what we just talked about in the other slide. The sponsors that facilitate the apprenticeship development and the processes. The U.S. Department of Labor, who oversees the entire apprenticeship process, making sure that there is a quality of access to programs, making sure that the tenets of the apprenticeship process are being followed. The job seekers and the apprentices, obviously, they're the ones who receive the instruction. They're the ones who learn the skills and earn the credential. The state VR agency is obviously key. The registered apprenticeships are recognized service through vocational rehabilitation. Funds can and should be used to help with the apprenticeship training, provide support services, any equipment that may be needed on the job that would not be provided by the employer, and any sort of accommodation costs that again are not picked up by the sponsor. And then the sponsor, of course, that require the skills that will be developed. They design the apprenticeship, they host the program, and then the mentor, who is probably the most key to this whole process, is someone within the agency and within the apprenticeship environment, who helps guide the apprentice through the entire process, and helps them with things that their direct supervisor may not. Next slide, please. Some additional players in this in this process are the community colleges. They often provide the curriculum and the classroom instruction. These are oftentimes they're college credits toward a degree or to some sort of a certificate or a recognized credential. High schools can play a part in this, particularly in pre-apprenticeships. The Office of Apprenticeship Services through the Department of Labor, a state apprenticeship agency, if a particular state has one, and then the WIOA Youth Program. Again, they are also some providers of pre-apprenticeship programs that can be a stepping stone toward a registered apprenticeship. Next slide. And basically, there are two entities that are responsible for registering and overseeing the registered apprenticeships, and the Office of Apprenticeship, which is through the U.S. Department of Labor, and it's a federal program, federal agency. They utilize something called RAPIDS, which is a tracking system for oversight and ensuring compliance with the apprenticeship process. There's also the state apprenticeship agencies, which not all states have them, but many do, who oversee that the apprenticeship process within an individual state. Next slide. Here are some tips in facilitating communication and collaboration. This is not anything particularly revolutionary, but it's certainly something that understanding what each entity in the process that we just described does and how they function. Very difficult to collaborate in anything if we don't understand what each partner does and what each partner's responsibilities are. It would be important to become an active member of an apprenticeship coalition, or putting one together if one doesn't exist in your area or state. Also distributing specific VR-related marketing materials. Folks with disabilities that access the VR system, statistics show that individuals with disabilities have a much greater opportunity for a positive employment outcome if they're connected to a VR agency, and this is something that certainly VR agencies, as we said before, recognize apprenticeships as an approved service. So we move to the next slide. Brian or Stuart, you want to talk about taking collaboration to the next level?
Sure, Stuart, or sure, Jim, I can do that. Next slide. So what we really have found over the last couple years is the idea of implementation, and we are trying to crack the code, across states and working particularly with a work group in the state of Illinois to, with multiple partners, including employers, to implement the toolkit and also to make apprenticeships a reality for particularly individuals with disabilities who are served by Folk Rehab in Illinois. And so to do that, what we're doing are a number of things. First is designating a specific person from our agency. So if you're thinking about getting involved with apprenticeships or being an apprenticeship training site for individuals, is to identify the point of contact to be able to engage with other apprenticeship partners and stakeholders. schedule regular meetings and check-ins with key apprenticeship partners that Jim just talked about, and also Stuart. Community colleges, certainly employers are central to this. The Office of Apprenticeship, either the state or federal office within the Department of Labor. Could be labor unions as well, workforce development partners. And the conversation on a monthly basis is apprenticeships and lining out how do we make this doable and practical for people. Visiting agency and company staff meetings and sharing a PowerPoint presentation. This is something that we've done in the past where we had joint presentations with like our institute at the University of Illinois in collaboration with the Office of Apprenticeship. We were able to provide a presentation about disability and inclusivity, universal access, but particularly the steps for hiring, training, and supporting employers who are already established registered apprenticeship sites, and those who are interested in that in the future. In bringing collaboration now, I see here, what we also have identified in addition to these steps is also determining a specific referral process and outlining this process. Stuart's developed in a flow chart with our state Division of Rehabilitation Services agency, and that's the plan of what we're going to do collaboratively. I should say it's on the agenda of things to do, so that we are clear on who does what and the roles and responsibilities and particular outcomes that we are seeking. Like how many individuals with disabilities do we want to see employed in apprenticeship programs? And then finally, the funding, as Stuart mentioned earlier, is a big deal federally. There's been a lot of dollars across the country, in particular states, on federal dollars flowing to businesses who are interested in registered apprenticeships and working with the Department of Labor or the state apprenticeship agency in their particular states. And so what we would suggest is to look at what funding actually exists in your state, and in this case, Florida, perhaps, and what is already happening as it relates to funding for apprenticeships and how you might get involved or access those funds to be a part of this initiative. It really needs to be an initiative in hiring and maximizing talents of all people, but including people with disabilities as well. Next slide. So I think in kind of tying this together as we close up shop, one of the sections of the toolkit is disability disclosure. This emerged organically within the group across partners, and that was something that was a barrier. And people with disabilities don't necessarily want to identify having a disability, or maybe they don't see themselves as having a disability. And this may be the case, and I think it's a case by case process, and certainly choice of the individual to share whether they have a disability or need accommodations. But what we found in this group was that we encourage or create an atmosphere that is inclusive, so that individuals with disabilities do feel comfortable disclosing, because this increases access of support that they could receive through accommodations, and that's can defer misperceptions that can happen as a result of just not knowing what might be going on with a particular worker. And so this was one part of the toolkit, and the fourth section that I think is really relevant to employers as they think about how do I work well with hiring a highly qualified worker with a disability. Disclosure provides protection from disability discrimination, and also disclosure provides an explanation for things like what may be different about your worker, you know, if you're coming at it from an employer perspective. So another way is when you think about this, it's not easy to disclose for anybody, but you want your company to be successful and you want your workers to be successful. So creating again that supportive environment and appreciating a worker's honesty to work with them, establish solutions to change an environment and remove particular barriers that could be limiting productivity and being able to complete required job tasks. And so in closing, how should you navigate this process with your workers? Again, I think to summarize, be patient and open-minded. We've said this before in our presentation today. Avoid questions, you know, too many questions about the cause of disability or medical details. I mean, we really want to focus on an individual's ability, strengths, and as it relates to work performance. I mean, that's really what we're after is, you know, functionality and supporting um, uh, an individual and looking at other ways to make it a successful match with the environment and the person. And then focusing on the positives of what the worker will share and the benefits it can bring to your workforce. That is really, I think, the essence, and is focusing on abilities and supporting that cause. And I think that'll, you know, hopefully overcome some of these hurdles, improve outcomes, and increase the number of individuals with disabilities in participating in registered apprenticeships.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jim. So in summary, you know, we had this learning community and we've seen this lack of disability representation in apprenticeships. And, you know, we think it's unfortunate and that those with disabilities are really missing out. We think that the opportunities are there. We think that the resources are there. And so we had this group of the stakeholders from the different state VR agencies, and we said, okay, here's this problem, you know, what are the reasons why this is happening? And again, we think it's just a lack of knowledge of apprenticeships. We think it's the poor interagency collaboration, and we think it's that issue with disability disclosure. So together, we just showed you all a little bit of a contents of the toolkit there that, you know, again, state VR counselors can use, employers can use, apprentices can use to address some of those problems and questions. With ultimately, we'd like to see more people with disabilities in registered apprenticeship programs. And you know, beyond this, as Brian mentioned, you know, we're working currently with the state VR agency in Illinois right now, Department of Rehabilitation Services, getting ready to launch this apprenticeship implementation project, we're calling it, to see some of these changes here. So we're getting very excited about that. Thank you all for attending. We have a few moments or a few minutes if there's any comments or questions just about apprenticeships and disability broadly, or if people have questions about the toolkit. I think a couple slides back, we have the QR code. I think you guys have access to these slides, but that QR code will take you to, I believe it's a PDF version of that toolkit. But if for accessibility or other purposes, we have our email addresses as well. We have more accessible versions too, if you want it in another method. But that's our overview of apprenticeships and the toolkit and how we can hopefully change this problem. But are there any comments or questions from the group?
If you have a question or a comment, you can put it in the chat. So while they're thinking.
Sure, yeah.
You mentioned early on a distinction between a pre-apprenticeship program and an apprenticeship program, being that the pre-apprenticeship programs are not paid and all apprenticeship programs are paid.
All apprenticeship programs are paid, and pre-apprenticeships may or may not be paid. Not usually. The primary purpose of a pre-apprenticeship is to orient somebody and prepare them for a registered apprenticeship program. So somebody wouldn't engage in a pre-apprenticeship if they're not interested in a registered apprenticeship later down the road.
Okay. Are you able to share any success stories that you know of thus far of individuals with varying disabilities and what apprenticeship programs they got into or completed? And if they're still, what level are they? A laborer, a journeyman, or a master, whatever?
Well, I think the honest truth is not that many, because we've worked with Illinois. We just recently had a meeting with the state of Pennsylvania, and we've asked about this, and people are just getting it started. And there's just been so few. If there's only been a couple thousand nationwide that have had this success, there's probably only maybe a dozen or so, or a small handful in our state in Illinois where we've seen this be the case. So we really haven't heard much at all. If you go on the website apprenticeship.gov, they have, success stories and some particularly tailored to disability, but not that much. So that's something, again, that we're hoping to change. One thing I'd like to say, one thing that comes up quite a bit in a lot of our discussions is, status 26 VR case closure with apprenticeship programs. And it's always been a little bit confusing because an apprenticeship, it is an employment outcome, but it's also coded in RSA 911 as an on-the-job training. And we've had a lot of, or at least, one state VR agency come to us for consultation and say, is it okay for us? Can we place somebody in a registered apprenticeship program? We know it's sometimes a 4-year program. We don't want to keep the case open for that long. Can we close it early? Can we close it 90 days after placement? Or is it best to keep the case open within that 4 years and close it after they complete the program, they get employment? Our professional recommendation is you need to keep it open for the 4 years and don't close until afterward. But that's something, and that's another question that the toolkit doesn't address, that we're having at least a couple different state VR agencies ask us, who seem eager to do that, to close the case early. And it becomes a matter of, you close it and, you get the employment outcome, and the odds are good that the person stays employed. But people also want to salvage their, like their MSG and their credential attainment, their outcomes as well. So I know that's another one thing I've learned just recently. Another reason why a lot of state VR agencies aren't so much utilizing apprenticeships as an outcome. So that's something that's recently come up a lot in discussion that's been on my mind lately. So I wanted to share that with you all, and if anybody has any experience with it. But again, when we talk to a lot of states, it's just the answer we get is, I haven't really placed anybody. I don't know a lot about it. So a lot of this is relatively new, and that's another thing of what we're trying to change.
Yeah. And we are going to send out all the resources that have been presented today, all the links in the chat. We're going to send all that out in a combined document, broken up just as the conference was today. And you should get that in about 30 days. But the link for the handouts have been put into the chat. And we will also make sure that you get that information. Anyone who registered, you'll get that information. And when it's posted, we'll let you know. So we just want to thank you. Thank you, Brian, Jim, and Stuart, for all of your assistance on that. There are several other people who said they're excited to see this information in the tools for the Dive BRT. And then there's some thank yous for this information that was provided today. So I'm going to skip this one to say how you would rate today's EVC. Because the next slide is our survey. So if you could either scan the QR code or take the survey that I just put the link into the chat. Please complete our survey, and depending on the platform and technology, there's 3 ways. We've provided 3 ways for you to take the survey. You can scan the QR code with your phone, copy and paste the survey link into the browser, and sometimes the Zoom platform will take you there sometimes when you close the Zoom window. So sometimes it's difficult to get there. Just remember, when you take the survey, what should happen ideally is once you answer the last question and hit submit, a pop-up window should come up, and it should take you to your certificate where you type in your name, you print it out with your name in there, or save it with your name in there with the changes, and then you have it. If that doesn't happen, you can always email me and I'll verify that you took the survey, and you'll get your certificate that way. The certificate is for 5 hours. We're not breaking it down, and I did not ask multiple questions per session. There's an overall conference question, and then I think there's 3 or 4 questions per session. I didn't ask the 10 questions we have done in the past. It's very short. So thank you for that. Also want to remind you that on the 27th at 7 p.m., if I'm not mistaken, and I don't have a slide, but I'll send it out. We're going to have Goodwill Industries of Southwest Florida. They're going to be presenting on navigating disability services, primarily teaching parents, caregivers, and self-advocates how to apply for how to complete the new APD online application. So that'll be there. I'll send that out to you guys so you can share that with everyone as well. So thank you all for joining us today at the Talent Actualized Employment Virtual Conference. It's been an incredible day filled with insightful discussions, innovative ideas, and meaningful connections. And as we wrap up, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our presenters, our panelists, our attendees for their active participation and contributions, and to our sign language interpreters. Your engagement and enthusiasm has made this truly a success. And throughout the day, we explore various aspects of employer engagement, changing expectations for persons with disabilities, innovative vocational education through virtual reality, the importance of disability awareness. These sessions have provided us with valuable perspectives and actionable strategies to create synergy for tomorrow's workforce. I encourage all of you to take the knowledge and the insights gained today and apply them in your respective fields. Together, we can drive positive change and foster inclusive workplaces that empower all individuals. And before we conclude, please take a moment to complete the survey that's linked, and your feedback is crucial for helping us improve future events. And thank you once again for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you at our next conference. Have a wonderful day.
Please visit our website for more information about our programs, projects, and how you can get involved.